If we don't lock between 10 to 4, this is what we're saving.
You try and call them, the same person who was in your house every day, because they know you are influential and you will give them votes. Call them after 1 month and see if they'll pick up their phone.
Don't tell your member of parliament that you want him to come and build a school, you want him to come and do a hospital. That is not the work of the member. Now that we have devolution in this country, these resources should go to those devolved units.
You have to have strong, independent institutions. And I mean, you have to have police who has the right to take the biggest town in the country and question, why did you do this and that, and send them to court if necessary.
Joel in Kericho, good morning.
Salama sana Eric, habari asubuhi.
Salama kabisa. Mbunge wako ni nani?
Anaitwa Seriousness Martin, hapa ni Nairobi.
Seriousness Martin, Nairobi.
Yes. Sasa ile juma nampambia yeye nini? Amalize aende.
Oh, wow.
Asante sana.
That's it.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Monday morning in the middle of the month, and what does it look like as concerns traffic on these streets? Okay, so many folks have been wondering what exactly is going on Langata Road. So there is the footbridge that's being erected. There's also part of the expressway that's being sorted out there. So it looks like traffic on Langata Road is going to be a thing, at least for the next foreseeable future. All right, what's happening in other parts of the city? Westland's starting to build up, but nothing too crazy. Jogo Road, as usual, started really early, and that's going to be there for some time. How about we take a look at the Thika Superhighway, where traffic is building up just around Pangani and a dot of it on Kiambu Road. Apart from that, doesn't look bad at all. The Eastern Bypass is also piling up, especially at the junction of the AP Training College, heading out towards the Thika Superhighway. We also have some traffic at around Imaradaima, and that's picking up in and outbound, but it shouldn't be too bad. The Southern Bypass looks pretty good, getting out of the city and back in. Shall we take a look in about half an hour and see what it looks like? Hopefully it won't be too manic of a Monday. Let's keep in touch. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up.
It's the 14th day of February 2022. Leo ni ile siku ya mafuta. Anything else? Forget it.
Forget about it.
Yeah. Leo ni siku ya mafuta.
Ilda itapanda, bea itapanda, ama bei itashuka.
I observe
Hiyo
keen
ndio
interest Ndu that Eric has inducted you into that religion that he has.
Gani hiyo ya mafuta.
Forget about it.
Forget about it. If you don't get it, forget about it. It's haraka na mapema asubuhi.
Bas. How you doing, City?
I am very well, thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
What kind of weekend did you have?
It was quiet, but Saturday, I went to Kitui to attend a funeral. A very close friend of mine lost his mother, so it was necessary for me to travel to Kitui.
What part of Kitui?
Near town, a place called Muthui. Yes.
Muthui. Near town.
It's very near town.
You're a good friend, CT.
Poleni sana. Poleni kwa msiba.
It was a good funeral. It was very well attended. Yes.
Back on the same day?
Back on the same day.
All right.
Kitui isn't far.
It isn't.
It isn't far.
And the roads are good.
Actually, the roads are very good. Even the roads that lead to the villages, all weather. Yes, and broad.
Very nice roads.
I think you need to travel out of Nairobi and go further inland to realize what Eric keeps talking about, the good work Kenya has done. Yes.
So,
Ndu,
yes.
how are you?
I am fine.
Happy
Thank
Valentine's
you, Eric.
Day.
How come you didn't wish CT Happy Valentine's Day?
He told me not to.
Oh,
Yes.
he had told you previously.
Yes,
Please don't embarrass me like this. I
Just
beg,
like
I beg,
I
I
told
beg.
you also specifically.
He had told you, I beg, I beg, I beg. Don't embarrass me. We are not in the mood. Dun, dun, dun.
So happy Valentine's Day to you.
Happy Valentine's
Had
Day
a good
to you,
weekend?
Eric. I did.
Right. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room.
Wait. Are you okay?
I am fine, thank you.
That is good.
Yeah.
Just checking.
I had a good weekend.
You know, when you go to the hospital, you
and
do
happy
triage
Valentine's
first.
Day to me.
Huh? Happy Valentine's Day to you.
Yes.
Oh. Okay, sawa.
Lakini leo ni siku ya
Mafuta. That's what we are looking at. The thing that affects everything else
Si
that we do.
maua.
See maua.
ni mafuta.
I am not going to be caught commenting on this subject that the two of you keep alluding to.
CT, mafuta sio
Sio maua.
maua. 14th February.
Yes.
Ni ile siku tutambiwa kama
Mafuta inapanda ama
ama
inashuka.
shuka.
Well, we'll have various conversations reflecting what's happened over the weekend, what's happening in the country as we head to gear towards the general election, what's happening globally in terms of COVID-19, Biden's attempt to force a new war in the world, and all those things. We will talk about all of them. We'll have two guests in the studio at 7 o'clock. You know, every time we approach general election, we start seeing the polls. Oh, these are the pain points that voters have. This is what voters wish that their leaders would talk about. Okay, these are the strengths of various political candidates in various regions. This is how they're doing. And so we are asking the importance of polling ahead of elections and whether they really reflect what the situation on the ground is all about. We'll be joined by the CEO of Tifa Research, Maggie Reri. And we'll also be joined by a Member of Parliament. What's his name?
Honorable Malaki Molu.
He's the MP.
Kitui Central.
He's the MP.
Member of Parliament.
Member.
He's the MP for Kitui. He'll be here
Central.
with us. Central.
Please.
Yes. He'll be with us. So keep it right here for those conversations. COVID? Yeah.
All right.
I'm going to start with Super Bowl.
Okay, so we know that the Rams hit the Bengals, all right, 23-20, and that was the end of it. For the first time in a long time, the Rams won. Yes? Yes. Are you okay now?
I don't care about who won. I just wanted to know whether there was a good performance.
There was a good performance during the halftime show.
That's
it. Okay. Let's look at what's going on in Kenya as concerns COVID before we look at the rest of the world. 37 new cases yesterday. We're still looking at a positivity rate of 0.9%. Very, very good in terms of numbers. 2 recorded deaths, unfortunately, in the last 1 month. That's what we're looking at now. But Kenya's numbers have been kept very, very low. Also very, very low is the number of vaccinations. Hopefully, again, the hope is that by the end of June 2022, that is this year, we would have seen more vaccinations having been carried out. But we're going to wait and see. There's still about 10 million, 11 million odd vaccines available in the country. So the call continues to be come out and get vaccinated. In terms of booster shots, that seems to have hit a lull. Folks are believing that if you had the first 2 shots, then you're all right. It's being suggested that you should get the booster and then see what can be done with that. N'est-ce pas? Bien, bien. All right, so let's look at the rest of the world. Well over 400 million cases of COVID. Excuse me, 412 is what we're looking at now. Again, still, countries continue to be hit with high numbers of COVID infections. However, the potency or the severity of infection is not as high. We don't have countries reporting high hospital admissions, for example. However, there are some interesting things that are happening. Countries continue to protest. France, for example, is the latest country to see protests. Dozens are arrested as a convoy of protesters enters into Paris. police intercepted hundreds of vehicles trying to enter Paris as part of a protest against France's coronavirus regulations. Tear gas was fired in the city as demonstrators defied an order banning the Freedom Convoy. Excuse me, got a bug in my throat.
Pole.
So, Interior Minister Gérald Darmanin said that 300 tickets had been handed out and 54 people had been arrested. Authorities had deployed more than 7,000 officers over 3 days in a bid to stop demonstrators. Despite these efforts, vehicles managed to arrive at the Arc de Triomphe in the city, and tear gas was fired at demonstrators at the nearby Champs-Élysées Avenue. The groups were inspired by the self-styled Canadian Freedom Convoy, which has disrupted trade at the U.S. border and occupied streets in Ottawa. Similar demonstrations have started to spread around the world because they do feel as though their freedoms are being hampered on.
Meanwhile, Trudeau is telling them that it's time to go home.
Yes, he says today. Today, interestingly enough,
By
today,
the
Monday,
way-
is the day when he's saying, excuse me,
Shock on
get
him.
out of the city, go home.
By
it's
the
enough.
way, the Ontario one, done with. They've gone home.
Yeah.
Ottawa, still.
Austria and Belgium.
Those
was
people are not going anywhere.
We're seeing Austria, we're seeing Belgium, we're seeing Australia, New Zealand, and the Netherlands. Everybody coming out and say, you know what, this is too much.
Yeah.
Open up, let us go. It's enough. We're done. Cooked. Finished.
They are going nowhere. They move out a bit, they'll come back. The issue is that border crossing, proper blockade. Not going. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It's 17 minutes after 6. We are live streaming the show as we always do every morning on SpiceFM KE, Facebook, and YouTube. If you're online, wherever you are on social media, even Instagram and Twitter, SpiceFM KE. Time for roll call coming up shortly after we take a look at the weather forecasts.
Are you a woman looking to run for an elective position in the upcoming 2022 general elections? SpiceFM, the home of Kenya's biggest conversation, is inviting you to our studios where you can speak more about your vision and aspirations to an audience of millions of Kenyans as we celebrate women in leadership. For more information, contact us on 0763 969797.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
This Monday morning, we're looking at partly cloudy conditions in Nairobi, likely to see highs of 28 and lows of 15 today. Into Nakuru, we'll see highs of 29 and lows of 13. It's currently clear at 14 degrees and clear in Nyeri, highs of 29 and lows of 13. Eldoret is clear at 12, highs of 27 and lows of 11. We're looking at mostly clear conditions at 25 in Mombasa, highs of 32, back down to lows of 25. While it's mostly clear in Malindi at 25, it'll go to highs of 31 and lows of 25. It's cloudy in Kisumu at 20, highs of 30 and lows of 19. At 16, it's mostly cloudy in Kakamega, highs of 31 today and lows of 16. Kampala is mostly clear at 20, highs of 29, and we're looking at mostly clear conditions at 26 in Dar es Salaam, going to highs of 31. Clear conditions at 16 in Johannesburg, highs of 26 and lows of 15, while Lagos for a change is mostly clear at 27. We'll see highs of 33 and lows of 26. Clear conditions in Kinshasa at 23, highs of 31 and lows of 22. Into Beijing, it's minus 3 degrees. It's sunny, however, going into Monday afternoon. It'll only go to a high of 0 and lows of minus 9. Paris is cloudy with the demonstrators and everything at 12 degrees. Highs of just that and lows of 4. Mostly clear conditions in London at 8, highs of 9 and lows of 4. And it's minus 2 and cloudy in New York Sunday night. We're coming into Tuesday. We're coming into Monday. We'll see highs of 0 and lows of minus 7.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Mornings
done right.
It is 20 minutes.
94.4 Spice FM.
To you, who's online? Roll call time.
Danfas is tuned in. He says he's in Kisi Ibeno Nyanturago. Wow. Well represented indeed. Wandu Wamundoro is tuned in this morning, listening on Valentine's Day. That's where Andrew Franklin is. This thing is gingering people's body. Buyai Marachi Busia says, good morning, and that's Simon Murakana. Vincent, it's Monday again. The formidable Situation Room team is back to do what it's good at, okay? Already spiced, waiting for the conversations this morning to Kohapa. Isaiah Ombura says, good morning from CBD in Mombasa. All right, who else is online this morning? Phil, we see you. Mushubi Gadhambi tuned in from Kirinyaga. And Namswa Elisha says he's tuned in from Somalia and says, happy Valentine's Day to you. As does Jepchumba Milka. Ashvel Kosuda says, good morning. And from Namibia, Meduletu, love it, says, good morning. Clyde Shihemi is tuning from Kakamega this morning. Robertson Bogo says, hello. MCI is asking, Memkaje, what to? Tuned in from Mui Ward in Mwingi.
Finish, Bwana.
I can't read that word, man, ever.
Read the whole message.
Mkaje watu guyas.
Nguyas.
There's no N there.
Go on.
He's tuning from Mui Ward in Mwengi Central Constituency. John Rory says, good morning. Benson Mwasia says, good morning from Kiambu. I'm sorry for butchering your names this morning. I wouldn't normally. But everybody we see you this morning, minus throwing hearts and flowers at UCT. Collins Kiptai Kipsat says, good morning, tuning from Eldoret. Charity, we see you. Peter Paul, Mwalimu, David, Cleophas, everybody. Good morning. Thanks for joining us today.
Kabisa, welcome to the Situation Room. CD?
Pasipo meno.
You lied.
No, 15th is tomorrow.
Oh,
today is 14th.
Wow. Can't catch a man. Down.
Okay.
Middle, tomorrow.
Bas.
Pasipo meno, hapavunjiki mfupa. Without teeth, a bone cannot be broken.
Pasipo meno, hapavunjiki
mfupa.
Mfupa.
Sire mimi.
Ulewe? Think of a chicken.
I'm thinking of a chicken.
And think of the way we Africans eat chicken.
Or more like my mom, your cousin. There's no bone left.
Yes, that's precisely the point.
Does she have teeth?
My mom has very strong teeth.
Bas.
It's unbelievable.
Bas.
So there, you understand the proverb now?
I'm sure you have relatives who don't have as many teeth. Will they not have a problem eating bones? You know, as we eat bones, forget chewing bones, we eat bones.
And it's not, Mrs. Okoh. Wow.
Hiya. Let's look at the newspaper headlines then. Remember, you can access the Standard e-paper on Google Play Store, Apple App Store. Just download the app and you also get access to it. www.standardmedia.co.ke. So now, what's in the headline?
Auditor raises queries over funding of public universities. The Ministry of Education has been accused of frustrating the university's fund, which is mandated to disperse funds to the institutions of higher learning in Kenya. Auditor General Nancy Gathongo, in a report, also questioned whether the fund has been discharging its duty as stipulated under Section 53 of the Universities Act. So she's not a happy camper. She further accused the State Department of University Education of directly financing universities contrary to the law that requires the money to go through the university's fund. The fund has only been advising the State Department for University Education on how to allocate and disperse the funds to the public universities. The report came amidst claims that what universities get is dependent on lobbying by their managements, which should not be the case. Vice chancellors who spoke to the Standard claim some universities get bigger allocations from the ministry based on their lobbying. I think we saw something like that also happens at the county level, but that's a different story. The Universities Act 2012 established the fund and mandated it to finance universities. Section 54 spells out the functions of the fund, which include apportioning funds to public universities and issuance of conditional grants to private universities. The fund is also mandated to, in consultation with the Cabinet Secretary, develop transparent and fair criteria for allocation of funds to universities and issue conditional grants to private universities. The fund is also mandated to mobilize and receive funds for purposes from the government and donors, as well as any other source. So now what Nancy Gadongo is saying here through this whole report, I mean, it goes on and on. But what she's saying essentially is that the way in which you all should be managing funds and funding has been going south for some time. And from our reports, we can see that you guys are using this as a power play. And we don't like it, number one. There's a law that governs how you should operate, especially when it comes to money. And this hue and cry that we've been seeing from public universities in that they do not have any funds to do 1, 2, 3 is because of this. That you give funds to the highest bidder, the highest lobbyer, and then she's alluding that the lobbying goes along with a little bit of something.
So there's kickback.
Yes. So this hue and cry we see is not because the money is not available. It's that some people are getting a larger portion of the cake based on how well they're able to speak. Yep.
That's interesting to hear.
It is.
So is the money being well spent?
According to her,
Has
no.
she audited the money and has found that the money is actually being well spent? Am I she auditing the process of getting the money?
The process is what she's looking at now. The
And
process, and she's saying the process is flawed. And if the process is flawed, from now, a further comment that she made, if the process is flawed, one can only assume then that how it's being used then also will have some flaws.
Not necessarily.
According to her.
Not necessarily.
What other scenario could there be, CT?
You see, money is gotten. Let's forget about this particular story that we've read regarding money and processes.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes.
Let's look at something that we relate to more easily. Someone steals from either county government or steals from national government or does something nefarious, something that can't really stand the glare of light well. Goes and gives Harambee to a school. Classes are built, provides desks. The good is obvious. Students will learn, they'll have desks. Provides beds to a nearby hospital. People will benefit. So, the money was ill-gotten, but the benefits are not ill-gotten. The benefits are just that, benefits. That's what I'm saying.
I understand what you're saying.
It doesn't matter how it got there. Can we see when it got there? What did it do?
Yes, not necessarily. Yes, see, from what Ndu has read, the implication is that because it was ill-gotten or it has come in a way that
it's passing. It's supposed to be coming through the door.
Yes,
it's coming through the window.
Yes,
but it's getting into the
The
room.
State Department should be just advising how money goes.
Yes,
and then the money goes to the university's fund. Now the State Department is sending money directly, so it is through the window. So in this, she says, in the circumstances, it has not been possible to confirm whether the fund has been carrying out its mandate as required by the law.
Yeah, but let me raise a further question. If it went through the door, how then would it be easier to confirm?
You know who to ask.
Because you know that at the door there is this person. And that it definitely has passed through.
Yes, but the window is part of the house.
There's a doorkeeper.
Yeah, but there's no window keeper.
Then why don't they find a window keeper?
Because the law says that it must pass through the door.
Change
the
the
law.
law.
Is that the law is what governs. The law said pass through the door.
I think you can see what I'm trying to do
I
here.
get what you're trying to say.
Yes.
What are you trying to say?
I'm trying to say that her point is valid, but the conclusion...
If the result is a good one, if the result is benefiting across board, then what's the problem? That's what CT is saying.
Yes, that's really what I'm saying. I understand exactly what is being pointed out, and I agree. If we lived in a country where processes necessitated the outcome being as positive as we desire, then I would agree with 100%. We know that is not true.
It's 6:30. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's take a break. Take a look at the traffic. We'll be looking at other headlines shortly. Good morning to you wherever you're tuned in this lovely Monday morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM.
5,000 kilometers of unforgiving terrain across Kenya. Classic rally machinery puts through their paces by the best drivers across the globe. That's right, the toughest rally in the world is back with a bang. The East African Safari Classic Rally flags off on the 10th of February in Naivasha. Follow 9 days of pure motorsport action with stages on the 11th and 12th in Nanyuki, 13th to the 15th in Amboseli, 16th in Savo, 17th and 18th in Watamu, where only the strongest pairing man and machine will cross the finish line. Stay updated on all the events on KTN Sports, Standard Newspaper, or follow the Standard social media pages across all social media platforms.
Looks like we're going to start traffic hour early this Monday. And there's some that's building up quite significantly on Huru Highway today. Langata Road, that started from a long time ago. And it's really red on Jogo Road today, heading out into the city via the roundabout at the City Stadium. Then heading on towards Landis Road. That's picking up quite some today. We're also seeing some traffic also building up on the Thika Superhighway. That happened really quickly. We're looking at in and outbound traffic, interestingly enough, just past the Outer Ring Junction, and then heading further out towards Zimmerman. It's heavy on the Thika Superhighway today. We're also looking, oh my goodness, all the way past Clayworks today, moving very, very slow. It looks like it's not going to be an interesting morning on the Thika Superhighway. If you're there, hang tight, folks. You get out of it eventually. Looking on the western side of the city, Waiaki Way is not looking too bad. We're seeing that traffic building up and coming out from James Gishuru. That's going to slow down significantly. Use the Red Hill Link Road. You get out of the city really quick and you can enjoy the views, isn't it? It is. All right, let's talk in about half an hour and see what it looks like when we're in traffic hour proper. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Cuts both ways, right? It's not that all the time the person who's been taken to court has to lose and the others win. And that's how you say that the war against corruption is being won. It can also go the other way. For example, the High Court in Eldoret has cleared the former managing director of the Kerio Valley Development Authority, David Kimosop, of any wrongdoing and awarded him 23.4 million shillings as damages. The court also ordered KVDA to pay Kimosop 3 months' salary in lieu of notice, 6 months' salary for unfair termination, the salary for the remainder of his contract, gratuity, and leave allowance. Employment and Labour Relations Court Judge Nelson Abuoda ruled that the board terminated Kimosop's contract on the basis of perceived irregularity to Mwongozo, a code of governance for government-owned entities, which directs that a parastatal chief can only serve for a maximum of 2 3-year terms. In a virtual court session on Friday, Abuoda ruled that the termination of the former MD's contract was unfair and unlawful. The former MD had sued KVDA after his removal in May 2019. The judge says the board sacked him in spite of a circular by the head of public service, Joseph Kenyua, that suspended implementation of Mwongozo as far as government operations were concerned. Prior to his sacking, Kimosop was serving a 2-year term before the board argued that it was unprocedural because he had completed 2 terms at the helm of KVDA. The board was arguing that Kimosop's appointment had not been subjected to the directive of the maximum 2 terms. The board, during the proceedings, said they had been directed by the head of public service to terminate the contract. You understand this? There's Mwongozo. Mwongozo says you are serving a state parastatal, you only serve 2 terms, maximum 2 terms. Well, the board can terminate it at any time. The board can even choose not to renew after the first 3-year term. Okay? But the maximum 2. Man has served maximum 2. He was on a 2-year term. The board comes and says, we've been told by Kenyua to suspend you. But Kenyua, in his memo, had suspended the implementation of Mwongozo.
Not this person's contract.
He had suspended implementation of Mwongozo,
and this person is not called Mwongozo.
Yeah. It means that by suspending the implementation, the 3-year, 2-term, blah, 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 does not apply.
No, does it really? No. Suspend doesn't mean cancel.
Suspend
it means pause.
Yeah. It means that you cannot then say that this person has already served their 2 terms, so go home.
Yes.
Mwongozo is not in effect.
Yes.
So man went to court.
He
Man
did.
said, you have unfairly terminated me.
He's right.
23 million shillings.
Pop.
Pay him salary, pay him gratuity, pay him leave, pay him in lieu of notice, pay him in what, pay him 6 months, pay him.
But the man is right. Project comes to an end. My contract doesn't come to an end and the project comes to an end. No. It is not I who started the project and it is not I who ends it.
I simply worked on it.
Yes. Good call by that justice.
Bas kabisa, sindio?
Very good call.
What's in the Business Daily?
The Aurora and Kimorer issue is still with us.
Yeah.
Yes, this time it has moved to the insurance industry and the banking industry. Believe it or not. You know, when you have projects such as the Aurora and Kimorer Dam and other huge undertakings, even this particular superhighway, expressway, yes, they are insured and usually there are some banks involved. Okay?
Yes.
Now, the state is seeking 7.7 billion from Heritage Insurance and Standard Chartered Bank for insurance guarantees paid for the controversial Aurora and Kimorer dams. Let me read further. The State Department for Northern Corridor and Kerio Valley Development Authority, KVDA, told Parliament last week that the state is demanding 4.1 billion from Heritage Insurance for the Aurora Dam. Regional Development PS Belio Kipsang said the government would seek a further 3.6 billion from Standard Chartered Bank for the Kimorer Dam ahead of the expiry of the guarantee in June next year. The payments akin to the performance bond are due to the failure to construct the 2 dams by Italian construction company CMC di Ravenna, which was paid billions of shillings and has since filed for bankruptcy.
So the state wants to be paid insurance because this company collapsed.
Not only it collapsed,
it's bankrupt.
And also they didn't do what they're supposed to do. The insurance is supposed to guarantee that should something happen, and this something really did happen. Yes, they didn't start the construction, and the company which is supposed to construct the construction
didn't.
They constructed.
It deconstructed completely. So, yes. So,
if I remember correctly, is there no such a similar case in Italy where the company is seeking compensation also?
Yes, they are.
But they're seeking from now, Gava.
Yes.
No. They want to be paid.
They want to be paid because according to their contract, regardless of 1, 2, 3, there's some money that they should have received.
Yes.
Now, whether 1, 2, 3 did not happen really is not our problem. It is on your side. But the ink has dried where it said that we would be paid. So do what?
Aye.
By the way, the Treasury paid 19 billion shillings towards this particular construction. 19 Yeah, Treasury paid.
Not only 7.
Treasury paid 19 billion. Yes.
719 billion.
No.
You said 719.
No, I said Treasury paid 19 billion.
Okay.
Maybe my tongue got stuck in a word there.
It's possible.
Yes, which begins with 7. But it is 19 billion. Yes.
Surely. It's a lot. It's a lot.
It is.
This one is just simply unfolding. I'm sure there's more to come.
There's more to come. And now we'll get so lost in so many, this one, there's a claim from here, there's a claim from there, there's a money paid here, the company has gone bankrupt, the government of Italy, it was a government. We'll be so lost, we'll not know. But the money will be paid.
What?
Yeah, but money will be paid somewhere. So the universal health coverage, it was rolled out nationwide by the president. They've taken another full-page advert where they're talking about how Kenyans can access and benefit UHC. Okay? The benefits package that Kenyans can access under UHC is dubbed the UHC Super Cover Benefits Package. The principle of UHC is that those who can pay should pay, and those who cannot pay be identified and be supported. The government of Kenya has supported the initial 1 million vulnerable families of those identified in the first rollout phase. Members can access the following packages under the UHC Super Cover. Now, these 1 million people, who are they? Have they been told that they've been identified and they're being paid for?
Where are they?
Yeah. The government has identified. The government is paying. So how do they know?
How do the people know that they're being paid for?
Yeah, how do they know that? Who knows if we already have 5 million vulnerable households? Who are these 1 million who are getting paid for?
And this is separate from the 5 million?
Yeah. This is the initial 1 million people. So, the UHC Super Cover Inpatient Package covers hospital stay with healthcare diagnosis, procedure and treatment, including consultation, specialist doctors' fees, blah, 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 blah. 717,000 admissions were covered under inpatient benefits package in 2020 and 2021. Just looking at how it's worked so far, you know. The UHC Super Cover Renal Dialysis Package, Super Cover Surgical Package. The Super Cover has an oncology package that includes treatment for cancer patients using chemotherapy, radiotherapy, brachytherapy, consumables, pre-meds and post-meds, routine lab investigations, blood and blood products, treatment planning, PT scans, radioiodine therapy, bone scan and radionuclide scans, all these things available. Members can access services at any of the NHIF and paneled facilities countrywide. That's for oncology. Super Cover overseas treatment. Members or declared dependents must be cleared by the Ministry of Health for travel, but it covers treatment of medical and surgical interventions arising from a condition that warrants treatment that is not available in Kenya. You have the Super Cover Outpatient Package, Super Cover Maternity Benefits Package, Super Cover Emergency Care Package, Super Cover Radiology Package, and the Behavioral Health Package. This one is for common mental disorders, including depression and anxiety, severe mental disorders, including psychosis, schizophrenia, and bipolar disorder, neurological disorders such as epilepsy and dementia, childhood disorders and drugs, and substance abuse disorders. Covered in the NHIF Super Cover.
Right. What is the damage for it to be under the Super Cover per month?
Same
thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
6,000 a year.
Not bad at all.
6,000.
Looking at those what they call critical conditions that then need medical attention on a regular and are quite expensive, and that the Super Cover can take care of those treatments under the same amount, I think is phenomenal.
Yep.
The
main issue is whether now it moves into covering the entire bill, or whether it's
will only cover until a certain amount, and then thereafter.
Yeah, those limits need to be very clear.
You know, if you look at the principle on which insurance works, it ought to be able to, especially when you add in the component of compulsorization. That one.
Good job.
It ought to work because there is no single day that every member of NHIF is going to fall sick.
No.
Okay? However, our problem is never what we're discussing here. It never is. The money will come in, it will be there, and then God alone knows
what it will be used for.
Yes. And then there are the deals that are made by people who work within NHIF and the hospitals, and NHIF will start hemorrhaging again. You'll find there's some hospitals where people fall sick daily, and the numbers keep increasing. So, in the absence,
and they're admitting more people than they have their bed capacity.
Yes, exactly. Now, in the absence of a clear plan as to how they're going to stop this hemorrhaging, even if it's compulsory and everybody who's supposed to pay pays, our problems will not have gone away. No.
You know, I still want to come back and say, I mean, there's a lot of UHC health coverage, UHC, and there's too much focus on the money side and not enough focus on the facilities side.
I'm telling you.
Like when you're talking about all this oncology, you can come and get the oncology package. How many facilities in this country are able to offer you this?
This is the thing. And
what's the queue?
I'm really worried about that. I'm really, and that for me is the crux of that. Even when we're talking with Dr. Mercy Korea, that is it. That we can talk about it, and on the surface, it looks really good. But the substance of the program, for me, I really have an issue. Because are we going to, is it going to be delivered across the country? Because that's what it means, universally, that you should be able to go anywhere and get the medical treatment that you need. Oncology services, for example.
let's say
available around the country, wherever you go, that you will be a cancer patient, for example.
At least at the county referral.
Yeah, at the county referral hospital, will you be guaranteed that there's oncology services, for example? Will you? Will you?
You know, as we speak right now, there's a situation that hasn't really quite changed. Remember the MES program?
Yep.
We still have equipment lying in some counties that have never been used.
They're still wrapped in the cellophane that they came in.
And the reason is because they can't use them. It's not that they don't want to use them. These equipment require personnel. Okay?
Yep.
Now, the personnel may be trained, but they're all in the big towns.
This is it.
They aren't spread out. So, remember that discussion about centralizing the deployment of health workers? It has to be revisited. Because it is the only way that you will guarantee that certain parts of this country or every part of this country gets the personnel that they require. Think, for instance, if education was being treated the way health is being treated. The problem would be worse. Because there are parts of this country that many people are not willing to go to. They'd rather not.
Yep.
Why? Because they have an option. Now, these places, unfortunately, the inhabitants are Kenyans just like the other Kenyans in these so-called big towns. And the very things that are required in these big towns are the very same things that they require. One could argue even more so.
Even more so.
Yes, so.
But it's going to be a very tough discussion, that one.
It has to be.
Because much as the same healthcare workers are pushing for the same centralization of health resource management, they'll also not be able to get the benefits that they've gotten. In the counties are paying doctors very well, starting salary. If they're all under one umbrella organization,
they will be paid less, obviously.
They would not be earning the kind of money that they've earned. The kind of money that doctors have earned in the last 9 years in terms of increase in salaries. Huge. Anyway, 13 to 7. Let's take a quick break.
You know, when you see someone being jailed, a governor or two or someone who stole, then people will fear. Because our problem is not the borrowing, it's the stealing.
We've become actually a nation of thieves. The only thing we lack is an opportunity to steal.
The guys who quote the Bible and say I'm a Christian and all that, and you know they're thieves. Return what you have stolen 4 times. If you know that you have property or anything that you have stolen, just return and say, my God does not allow me to hold stolen things.
We are also a reflection of you, because you elect us. You know, we don't get into our office by ourselves. We are a reflection of the people who elect us.
We don't want to go to the streets. We have a constitution that enables us, assert our will.
When the legislature are now being taken as hostage by the executive for whatever reason, we are now bound by what they want us to do.
This is just outside the realms of reality. We have impunity written into the DNA of our political class.
How old were you when you learned that Jeshi la Wokovu is Jeshi la Wokovu?
I can't say it very well. Jeshi la Wokovu.
And everyone knows. Okay.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice FM, Malindi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
We'll be talking about polling and numbers that matter just at 7 o'clock. It's interesting that there's this article in the Standard today, the tyranny of numbers that really matter in this year's polls. Dennis Kabara is telling us that there was palpable excitement when voter numbers were published in our Intrepid Media. With 5.3 million voters across the entire Rift Valley region, 3.1 million in the central, 3 million in Nyanza and Eastern, 2.5 in Nairobi alone, 2.1 in Old Western, 1.9 at the coast, and 866,000 in the former Northeastern province. That's 22.1 million votes up for grabs. Folks are excited by these numbers. At an ambitious 80% voter turnout, this means that just under 9 million voters are enough to make one a president. Of course, one imagines that respective campaign teams are setting their benchmarks at 10 million. Kenya doesn't do well with close elections. which is why 2022 was a truly happy time. 2002 was a truly happy time when Kibaki ascended to the throne with a 63% plurality that is proclaimed and then accelerated the decline, if not death, of KANU. So, as a sign of more modern times, a generation later, there's been some interesting scenarios this week. While breaking around the two-horse race, we expect while breaking down voting numbers by county and dominant ethnicity. So, for example, Trans Nzoia and Nakuru become Western and Central, and assuming 100% voter turnout. We may not like this game we call the tyranny of numbers, but we clearly cannot live without playing by it. 22.1 plus voters is no small change in a country with an estimated population headed to 52 million, of which as many as 26 million are persons of voting age. If these numbers are right, before the voter register is cleaned, of course, we are talking about a hit rate tending towards 90% in a country where voting is not compulsory. Registering all 26 million potential voters was IEBC's essential target. We all know what happened with that. Because participation in the presidential vote determines the turnout for the other 5 seats, candidates from home, quote unquote, should expect a positive bumper vote, while regions without candidates will underperform. This probably mimics Central and Coast important game changers, and Eastern too. This is a tragedy of the Kenyan election prototype and practice, which, as was demonstrated, is an ethnic census. Of course, using the old provisional map, you can see that this is what is carried in the Standard today. But looking at how the country then will be split in terms of numbers, and it's interesting because this is based then on where the candidates are from and where the largest support also for these candidates are from.
It's interesting. We should invite Kabara into the studio.
I think
He's
so.
an economist. He's looking at it from all those numbers. For example, he's looking at the size and the the number of voters, right? He says, for instance, provincial perspectives, what's the economic promise to 3.2 million acres former Central Province? Central Province, 3.2 million acres, 5.3 million voters today. An economy that did 1.1 trillion shillings in 2017. Compare that to 31 million acres, 3 counties of the former Northeastern Province, which have 866,000 registered voters in a 2 million population, with an economy that generated 111 billion shillings in 2017. So vast area, not highly populated, therefore not much economic output. So
what does that mean?
What does that mean? The tyranny of numbers is true. It might begin from the data above with voter registration proportions in relation to actual populations. But more importantly, it might begin a reverse reflection on why the diversity of economic outcomes in Kenya is so drastic. What the next leadership, from the presidency to the governors of our 48 governments, plan to do about it.
You know, it is an interesting discussion. But there's a simplification of it that came about with the Commission of Revenue Allocation, and with this one component in the dividing of spoils, okay, that sought to take care of these disparities. We've discussed it at great length here and said, you know, that little element of equalization that ought to have brought a semblance of sanity into this discussion, because it was never operationalized. We are not even back to factory setting. It's worse because with time, there's a greater awareness of what could be done. But some of these disparities are age-long. Go to Marsabit and think of the problems that we have. In the time of Bonaya Godana, this constitution is called the North Hor, okay? Starts from Moyale, border of Ethiopia. It ends in Saku. It is half. It comprises half of that particular county. Now, in that county, there are the Borana, the Ragabra, the Burji, and then the other smaller communities.
And the Rendile.
Yeah, Rendile, yes. The problem is, the Borana around 160,000. That, by the way, that county has just slightly above 200,000 people with that sort of acreage. Those who occupy that huge area are Gabra, okay? And they're just about 30,000. And unfortunately, that area which is demarcated is the one which has many of the natural resources like water that they require. You tell me, with such a situation, do you actually expect that you are going to have a semblance of peace soon?
Impossible.
And especially now, in an election year, when people are doing the craziest of things and saying even crazier things.
You can actually say impossible. It's not possible. For the next foreseeable future as well, it's not possible. A resource like that, so hard to come by, and then you have, look, comparatively large numbers of people fighting for this resource, and then you expect it to be a peaceful situation, especially when you know that the political theme usually has been, how can we split people over this one resource, for example? What narratives can we spin to make it look as though we have then come to help in a situation? It's going to carry on forever. Until and unless you have more of these resources then established in the area. Until you do that, you will continue. And there are people, look, we know, age old, that there are people who benefit from conflict.
Actually, most of the fortunes on this planet that have been made, the vast ones, it's during times of conflict.
Yes,
it's not during peace times.
No.
It's conflict. And those numbers, so you look at such regions and you think, so what is the best way to ensure that they also feel that they're part of this?
Precisely. You see, this was what among the things the evolution was supposed to have done. Okay, but look at what remained unchecked and which guarantees that the problems will never really dissipate.
Nope.
Okay. You tell me, when you send security personnel to such areas to try and quell the problems, you think those people want to die?
Nope.
It's not their
Yes.
problem.
Do you really think they're going to go all out? No. There is so much that is not said about some of these situations because the dynamics and what is at play is a lot more than we even say here. But unless the very, very foundations of these particular problems are dealt with, what we keep looking at are the consequences. And those are the ones we think we should quell. Yet the problem remains unchecked. The genesis is exactly what it has always been.
It requires a lot of leadership. The leaders from these areas need to be very, very sincere and honest about what they'd like their people to enjoy. Because if they don't, then they have no conversation that they're bringing to the table at the national level. They're just bringing their own personal conversations. Let's have a conversation about children and keeping them safe.
Let's do that. The internet is a crazy place, isn't it? A lot of stuff that's bouncing around. The protection of children and their minds when they are then accessing the internet is something that has come to the attention of the Communications Authority and is saying, you know what, we want to make it a safe place for for children, and we want to make their experience fun and easy while protecting them. Cyber Soldiers is a game then that was launched, and what it's supposed to do is help kids learn about the threats that they will face on the internet. It's available to play for free on the website and can be played on phone or tablet. It'll teach our kids, young and old, how to recognize threats on the internet and how to fight them. Its objective is to learn about how to deal with online threats and vulnerabilities. And then where you can find this information is
www.ca.go.ke. That's www.ca.go.ke. You select the campaigns and then click on the tab for either Play Cyber Soldiers or Child Online Protection. If you go to Play Cyber Soldiers, then the young ones are able to play that game. And if you go to Child Online Protection, that tab opens the information page that gives you all the information that you need to know about how to keep your children protected while they are using the internet. All right? This is all courtesy of the Communications Authority of Kenya. Mawasiliano kwetu, nguvu kwako. Keep it right here for more conversations coming up in the next hour. Like we said, we have two guests joining us. One is Magi Reri, the CEO of Tifa Research, and the other one is Makali Mulu, the MP for Kitui Central Constituency. The significance of polling during elections. That's a conversation at the 7 o'clock hour, which begins shortly after the news.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. The Orange Democratic Movement leader Raila Odinga met Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, where they held one-on-one talks to strengthen Kenya-India relations. During the meeting, Odinga, who is in India on a private visit, recalled his decades-long friendship with the Indian leader. He assured his Indian counterpart of Kenya's commitment to ensuring the two countries collaborate in championing the ideals of their relationship for the benefit of the people of the region. Prime Minister Modi also expressed his best wishes to Odinga, praising Kenya-India bilateral ties and their future endeavors. Now, National Assembly Speaker Justin Muthui now says that he will firmly prosecute all leaders implicated on corruption should he clinch the presidential seat in the August election. Muthui, who has declared his candidacy for the presidency in August, claims that his government will not save any leader accused of corruption. Speaker Muthui also emphasized that graft continues to have an impact on the country's economy, insisting that more action be taken against graft perpetrators in order to eradicate it. And Deputy President William Ruto has chastised leaders who appoint family members to government positions while overlooking minorities who are qualified. The country's second-in-command said that leaders should not be nepotistic to state jobs whenever a vacancy arises and that minority leaders should be given equal opportunities. While stating that his government will prioritize minorities, he also stated that if he is elected president in August, he will include them in the forefront of government affairs in order to equalize minorities' representation in the country. 3 Ukambani governors and over 5,000 leaders from the region have resolved to support Raila Odinga's 5th time at presidency in the forthcoming general elections. This is after Governors Alfred Mutua of Machakos, Charity Ngilu of Kitui and Kivutha Kibwana of Makueni held discussions to ensure the Kamba vote is 100% in the one basket of Azimio la Umoja. The 3 have held several consultative meetings to come up with a comprehensive campaign strategy to ensure the region is fully represented in the next government. Gladys Wanga, the Homa Bay woman representative, has declared her candidacy for governor of Homa Bay County. The lawmaker made the announcement during the Azimio la Umoja rally in the county that was attended by leaders allied to ODM leader Raila Odinga and his handshake partner, President Uhuru Kenyatta. Wanga promised to revolutionize devolution in the county and foster regional economic growth by focusing on 3 key areas: agriculture, infrastructure development, and job creation. A man is nursing injuries at a Makueni hospital after his tricycle was hit by a rally car along Kitui Kibwezi Road. The accident occurred at Kayungu area in Kikumbulio, Makueni County. Confirming the incident, Makueni County Police Commander Joseph Olinapeyan said the 3-wheeled motorcycle was crossing the highway when it was hit by the speeding rally car. Olinapeyan said that even though the rally car got minor damages, the driver and his co-driver escaped unhurt. Now, the World Health Organization's regional head of the continent has said African countries are on course to control the coronavirus and its emerging variants this year. African countries have faced a number of challenges since the first outbreak of the COVID-19 virus in February 2020, including the impact of lockdowns on economies and livelihoods and inequities in accessing vaccines. However, the continent also saw relatively modest infection and fatality rates, with a high number of recoveries when compared to cases reported globally, according to data from the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, which is Africa CDC. This as Newswire continues to urge you to continue observing the COVID-19 protocols. Go get inoculated, vaccinated against COVID-19 so that together we may win this fight. And finally, the world continues to celebrate radio as a medium of communication that has stood the test of time. Radio continues to be king, and with the World Radio Day being observed yesterday, we continue to celebrate those who have continued to work hard and smart in ensuring that we get the best entertainment, news content, and amazing conversations. SpiceFM, Vibes Radio, Radio Maisha, and the new kid on the block, Berur FM. You are appreciated. Finally, even as we wait for fuel prices to be reviewed later today, happy Valentine's to you. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
A few minutes after 7 o'clock, and we see traffic is already building up most parts of the city this morning. Shouldn't be too crazy, though. What we're looking at is it building up on Mombasa Road today. Around Imaradaima, there's some in and outbound traffic, but not too crazy right now. Where it has been quite heavy has been on the Thika Superhighway today. Coming into the city is no mean feat. You're going to have to sit tight for that one because Outer Ring is just as bad going in an easterly direction. Jogger Road as well, getting to the roundabout and then heading out towards Landis. Landis looking pretty good. You're going to get to the Kamkunji roundabout and then things are going to slow down. Where is it not moving? It's not moving on Langata Road. If you can use the longer route from the bypass getting into the city, you might want to do that because you will be stuck on Langata Road for some time. Coming out of Westlands as well, use the Red Hill Link Road, take you into the city much quicker than what we're seeing currently in the CBDs where there's a mishmash of traffic. So hang tight, guys. Let you know what it looks like in a short while. Help us out here so we can tell folks what to do and where to go. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
It is 7 minutes
the only
after
way
7.
to start
How
your
are
day.
you doing? Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. If you're just joining us, this is the second hour of the show on this lovely Monday, the 14th day of February 2022. Leo ni siku ya mafuta. Maua ni siku ingine. It's a different day. Leo tuna discuss mafuta. City Muga has the day's proverb before we welcome our guests.
I do.
Yes.
Pasipo meno hapa vunjiki mfupa.
Pasipo meno hapa vunjiki mfupa.
Yes. Simply put, without teeth, you cannot break bones.
Gum.
People have strong gums.
No matter how strong the gum, utakuwa na papasa tu mfupa, lakini hutaivunja.
You crush it.
Mheshimiwa here, I think understand something a little more, something that goes beyond the proverb. Well-trained gums can do something.
Can do something. Necessity is a mother of invention. Yes. Makali Mulu is the MP for Kitui Central. He joins us in the studio alongside Maggie Ireri, the CEO of Tifa Research. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to have you in the show. Mheshimiwa, karibu sana. That is the hottest seat. Yes. We've given Maggie the warmer one.
I wish you exchanged them.
I'm happy here.
Happy to be in this show for the first time.
Karibu sana.
Yeah.
Good to have you here.
Yeah, thank you.
Maggie, good to have you on the show, live in studio. We've heard you virtually before.
Yeah, this is a much better experience.
Right? Right?
Yeah, than virtual.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And happy Valentine's to both of you.
Happy Valentine.
Happy Valentine's.
City said, don't give him those things. Those stories. No. No, we're not. So we're here because we want to talk about polling. And we see these all the time. But before we get there, let's first of all get to understand Tifa Research. What is it that you do?
We're a market research company. Essentially, what that means is that we collect data, we analyze it, and that data is used by our clients to solve problems. In the current season, we're also doing opinion polls, political opinion polls, and publishing them, basically to allow the public, politicians to consume them and use them for decision making.
So who's your audience?
For opinion polling.
Yeah, for the opinion poll.
It's the public, they are Kenyans. But we see that the general public who are voters would consume the information and say, okay, how is my candidate doing? The politicians consume the data, but Sometimes you go on microphones and say, "Apana, that opinion poll is not right."
Mm-hmm.
So it's a diverse audience. We're also seeing donors are consuming the data because they want to see how is the election going to be like. Investors want to see is Kenya going to be stable or not. So opinion polls are being consumed by quite a number of people for various reasons.
Right. Mheshimiwa Makali, you sit in the Parliamentary Committee on Research and Education.
No, I sit in budget.
Budget now.
Yeah,
Yes.
but I do chair a caucus on evidence-informed decision-making and policy.
Evidence-informed decision-making.
Which
and
means
policy.
we use data.
Which means you have to use a lot of data.
Data, yeah.
Now, when it comes to opinion polling during election and election campaigns,
Yes.
Do you feel as if like it reflects the actual situation on the ground?
At times, not.
Why?
Other than just being a politician, my background is actually I'm an economist, my PhD in economics. So I've done a lot of research work. And as Madam Ileli is saying, what determines the results of any opinion polling or any research is the methodology you use. So one of the things which has been, to some extent, we are not sure of the results coming out there, is that at times you see a study conducted, one opinion polling conducted in a month. After 2 weeks, another one is conducted, and they give us totally different results. And you wonder, for example, you saw the other one, which within 2 weeks, one was saying Honorable Luto was leading in terms of presidential race. Within 2 weeks, Honorable Raila is leading, and the party presidents are changing. And you ask yourself, what is happening? Because generally, let me just break this into simple.
Yes.
Anytime you conduct a poll, you don't interview every Kenyan. You interview a smaller number of Kenyans, which means you sample.
Right.
And I'm sure really is on top of that. So whatever you sample, it means it should be a representation of the total population. And studies and academicians have confirmed that if you do proper sampling, the results should not be very different depending on what levels of confidence interval. At times we allow some margin of error. That's what we call confidence of margin of error. So if you are sampling from the same Kenyans and you do a proper sampling following the right methodology, you don't expect those results to be so different. So the reason I'm saying I'm not very sure is, you people in the media and print media, you only give us the final result. You don't tell us how some of these things have been arrived at. And anytime you question the methodology, anytime we say we want to see the methodology, then you find there's a lot of resistance from the Nyeri and the others.
Why is there resistance? I mean,
A lot of resistance.
I actually disagree.
Maggie, is that true?
I disagree with that. I disagree the last
And I think that's why your earlier question makes sense. Are they cooked at times? Because the thing is, we are Kenyans and we live in this country. Kenya is our country. We know at times there are also interests. Ileli is a political. At the end of the day, she has a vote like me, and she has also her own interest in terms of who do I vote. If you ask her, she can tell you I vote so and so. I know you, as an individual, you are separate from your organization because the organization is bigger. But I'm saying there are some. I can tell you I've been in this game also before I joined politics, and she knows. Times she used to be my client. So we've conducted serious surveys in this country, and we know some of the farms. You can't vouch for them in terms of methodology.
Okay. First, I just want to say I agree with him to some extent and disagree. Let me start with the level of agreement. When polls are published from different companies, it is a fact that in the recent times, there have been different results. I don't dispute that. But what I'd like to say is that every company has a responsibility to use a proper methodology. And the methodology that has to be used has to be very scientific to ensure that the sampling is done properly. If that happens, then ideally the results that are presented should be ideal. We as a company I represent, Tifa, use a very scientific methodology, so I would stand with my results. Now, over the last few months or years, we've seen a lot of research agencies coming up purporting to publish polls. Some of them are even taking very large sample sizes, like 20,000, 30,000 respondents, and saying that they've done a poll. If you're to do a sample size of 30,000 respondents in Kenya, you probably need about 20 million to collect that data. You look at the company that is publishing the polls, they don't even have a website. So I think it is true there are agencies that are actually publishing the wrong results. However, I'd like to disagree with Honorable Makali in terms of I, as an individual, I have a vote, and therefore I'm likely to be biased when I'm doing research. That is totally wrong. We follow a science, and the way the science is followed, it is impossible to say that I, as Maggie, will then decide to change the data to suit a particular candidate. That does not happen. From the time you're collecting the data, from analyzing, from quality control, the chain of quality control is so long, and the number of stakeholders involved are quite a number. So it is impossible in my company to change the results. Okay. Now, how will I vote? Let me finish with how will I vote. Yeah. I actually will vote in the election as per my last opinion poll because I believe in it. If there are two front runners and one front runner is leading as per my opinion poll, I will align with the opinion poll because I believe the methodology is very, very scientific.
You've said and I think you've given now, you've said in my company. Now, does that mean that there are other companies out there who are releasing information? Because we already know, even as we're talking about the significance, that there are people who follow the polls, just like you do, and you say you will vote based on what the poll has said. Now, there are people who will make a choice based on a poll that they have seen. So, are there companies out there who are releasing erroneous information, or are they releasing information for money?
So, there are companies whose credibility I would like to say is questionable. The company that I work for, we are members of the Market and Social Research Association. By being members of that association, we adhere to certain guidelines. Some of those companies are not even members. And we've seen an opinion poll published today. Somebody complains. The next day they pull it down from their website and they change the results. So there are those companies that are strange. And I would like to encourage Kenyans, if you're going to look at results from credible companies. Now, you've asked me another question. Do opinion polls influence the voter choices? Because if there's an opinion poll that is published, is it going to influence my voter choice? What you've seen over the last few years, and here I'm talking about from about 2007 to date, we've been polling, opinion polls do not necessarily influence voter choices, because that's what you call the bandwagon effect, where you see that somebody's leading, and because they're leading, then I as a voter decide I'm not going to vote for my person who's number 3, and I go with number 1. They don't necessarily influence voter choices.
And actually the reason why they don't is what I said earlier. You know, for example, if you look at countries like America, opinion polling is taken seriously, and you see that done very regularly just as you approach elections. And, you know, Madam Mirelli used to work for Steadman. And you remember those days of Steadman. People used to take opinion polling very seriously because we'll have subjected the methodology to serious interrogation. We'll have looked at the methodology. Because, you know, opinion polling, where it is correctly done, there are 4 things it does, which is very important. One, it is able to tell you as a politician, where are you, or as a party, where are you in terms of national ranking. On the basis of that, you can be able to craft your messaging so that you improve your ranking. At the same time, at times they would put a question there which would indicate why are people not happy with you as an individual or as your party or a coalition. And on the basis of that particular question, then you'll be able to see what Kenyans are saying, that we are not happy with this, we are not happy with this. For example, this morning we saw in the Standard, there's the issue of Kenyans saying 6 things which make voters unhappy in the country: unemployment, corruption, poverty levels. So that when you craft your manifesto, then you tailor your manifesto to that point. So actually, where it is correctly done, it's a very important tool to inform decision making, to inform your strategies, and at the end of the day, you're able to improve your rating. But the challenge we have is what she's saying. There are some firms in this country, and these are, unfortunately, they are the majority. Unfortunately, they're the majority. You know, us as politicians, there's also this rating of MPs all over the place. You see all over the place, and the reason why we know they are not genuine is because you will get a call, somebody telling you we are about to release some resources, some results, and from the way things are, you are at the bottom there. We can discuss how we bring you up to the top.
You can now release some resources.
So you see, this is what I'm saying. And me as a profession in that line, forget about me being a politician. anytime you call someone to say we have results, we can change, then automatically it says there's a problem.
Yeah.
But there are some farms actually which you can vouch for, and but for me, I always say, send me your methodology. I need to look at it, because once you send me your methodology, it's just a simple garbage in, garbage out. So once I look at your methodology, I'll tell you this one, you can rely on them. And the problem is also the sample size. You know, as she's saying, since you can't interview everybody in Kenya, you need to sample a few. But even in sampling, you need to be also smart. For example, you can't just do a survey where you interview all women only and you say you have a good survey. You need to cluster the population. We have the youth, we have disabled, we have women, we have men, we have different regions. So your survey must also be representative in terms of the national appeal. And that's what I'm saying, really. Looking at the methodology, you'll be able to say. But we're not saying they are not important. They help in decision making. But I think we need to do a bit of work in terms of integrity of some of the farms.
There are those who argue that you can more or less predetermine results depending on the methodology you use, your sample sizing, your analysis, that you can purpose it. What are your opinions on this?
That's what we'd call biasing the research. So it is possible, as Honorable Makali said, to bias your results based on the sampling. If you skew your sampling to a particular area, and that geographical area has the one candidate receives higher support, definitely there'll be a problem. There's also a standard way of asking questions for opinion polling, and these are global standards. A researcher may decide maybe to ask the question in a way that it's prompting the respondent to give the wrong answer. So it is possible, but again, I say it depends on the professionalism of the researcher. And if you're a member of the Market and Social Research Association, we've harmonized the questions, meaning that the question is asked in the same way all the time. We've harmonized the methodology. So adhering to the standards then means that you don't bias the outcome of the results.
But maybe also to add, I think that question is very important. You know, so when you're doing sampling, there's what we call non-probability sampling and probability sampling. If you go for probability sampling, you give every individual in that sample an equal chance. Now, non-probability is like what you're saying, purposive. We call it purposive sampling. You can actually purpose to sample a particular group, which means then you eliminate the issue of equal chance. And that's what she's saying, then you bias it. Because in that case, then you are targeting a particular group to interview, not everybody. But if you go for probability sampling, then it means everybody in that particular sample will have an equal chance of being sampled. So you can't pick you or me. It means then we have equal chance. But purposive, then you are basically saying, I purpose to interview this particular individuals. On the basis of that, my sample then, you will have actually biased the whole process. But then depends on what results you expect. And in most cases, then you don't do opinion polling, you don't do purposive sampling. No, because you have to give everybody an equal chance to be able to say what they want.
Let me just add. So let me give an example. Let's say I go to, we do a lot of household sampling. Let's say I go to, I select the household randomly. When I go to the house, I look for people who are aged 18 plus. Assuming they're 10 or 5. The question is, how do you select one person in that household to be selected? Because I don't want to say, I want to interview you because I found you in the house, or maybe you look like you're more able to answer questions. So these are way of selecting even the respondent randomly at the household level to ensure that there's no bias.
The issue of opinion polling, especially during elections and around elections, has been debated in Parliament. And there was a whole conversation even on regulating opinion polls, by what time, close to an election, an opinion poll cannot be released. There was even a question of even seeing which companies are being allowed to conduct and release results of opinion polling. How far did that go?
Actually, that debate was in the House after some rating of members of Parliament was released. And we discovered that the firm which was releasing those results, the CEO is a wife to one of the members of Parliament. So the wife had given the husband very high rating there, and anybody who was a friend to the husband was also up there. And it went out there publicly. So
family and friends
discussed and automatically what I was saying earlier, more likely there was exchange of funds. so this is what we are saying. So members of parliament were saying we need to be very careful. Because the thing is, this is a perception. I see as well when people are told out there that so and so is rating number 1, and it's not real, it's people who have just doctored the figures, then you are misleading the voters. And I think really that's what we were saying. Then we need to come up with a law which can regulate. And more so, actually we were saying, I remember I contributed to that debate, and we were saying, let's not even think about blocking everybody, but let's demand that before an opinion polling is done, let that methodology be made public, so that you and me can look at it. You can publish it the way you publish the results, so that those who are experts in that area can look at the methodology, and then we derogate it. Critically, we say that it makes sense, it doesn't make sense.
And this is before the
polling
commences.
The polling, before the results are released. Okay. Because once you push your methodology, I see it, and we are convinced the right methodology, then we will be able to say, okay, let's now get the results. But what is happening is that, I think a lady will agree with me, because of the kind of, money exchanging hands. There are some people who have come up there. They're not even professionals. You ask somebody, what is your background? Somebody has not even done the statistics to bachelor's level. They left statistics at Form 4. And then they tell you, I'm the expert in that area. And the lady can tell you, this is a serious business. I'm telling you, preparing for a serious opinion polling requires a lot of brains. More so the methodology. She called it scientific. It's a scientific way of doing it. It's just not casually. But now some of them are doing so casually.
So should it be regulated?
It should. Basically, if we had, I think if we had the right people to do quality assurance, if we had either the right organization, she's saying, there's an organization you join. For example, if you're an accountant, once you're a member of ISPAC,
yes,
then they do the quality control.
Yes.
The challenge we have in this sector, we don't have an equal of an ISPAC, which controls other than internationally.
They only have a
and
club.
if they are there, then you join.
Maggie's looking at you like, no, we have.
The thing is, there are international levels where they join.
Yes.
But if you are not a member of it, then we should be saying, if you are not a member of this organization,
then you
don't
shouldn't
practice. The way we say, if you're an accountant and you are not registered with the ISPAC,
you don't have,
or you don't have a letter saying
certificate.
You are cleared by ISPAC, you don't practice. With them, there are those who are practicing without being really serious members of those organizations.
Let me just say something about the regulation. There's already an Electoral Opinion Polls Act that was passed quite a number of years ago. It does stipulate how opinion polls should be published, including the methodology and all the demographics that needs to be communicated at the point of publishing an opinion poll. It even goes to say that no opinion poll should be published within less than 7 days before an election. So there's a law. But also, I want to throw it back to the team here. The media does receive that does receive these opinion polls and then they does not interrogate. They publish. And when they publish, now you guys come back to us and ask us, why are you doing the wrong thing? Now, if the media could make a decision and say, what is our criteria for a credible company? That information is out there, collaborating with the polling agency association, deciding on how to publish the methodology. I know quite a number of media houses, and I also believe like the Standard Media House here has also made a decision on whether to publish opinion polls or not. But I think the media also is part of this conversation and needs to play a role in ensuring that opinion polls that are not credible are not published.
May I call you Maggie?
Yes, feel free.
Maggie, there's something you mentioned, and in my opinion, it actually gets the heart of the matter. You can have standards. You can have even an act. You can be part and parcel of an organization that regulates. But if the individuals involved do not have integrity, at some level, in my opinion, it boils down to the individuals who are there, because that's what research is all about. All these things are in place and everybody knows the standards. And then why do we have problems? Because the individuals involved. Some of the scandals that have rocked the planet, and even this country, have had to do with accounting firms. Not small accounting firms, big accounting firms, who are part of these organizations that are supposed to regulate. And you wonder, how did these things fall through the cracks? How did this happen? So even if you belong to an organization such as the one that you say, even if we have an act, but the individuals who are involved do not have the integrity that is required, at every stage, even with the correct methodology, that particular outcome can be influenced. This is really what I'm saying.
No, we can't agree more. You know, the thing is, integrity in this country is a very rare commodity. In this country, it's a very rare commodity. So you might have to make many rounds before you come across it. But we can't agree more. Really, the thing is, if you are serious researcher, you really need to go by what the results are. You know, you don't change the results to suit your interest. You should allow the results to talk the way they are. So that this is what is there, is the reality, we agree with it, and on the basis of that, make decisions. We can't agree more.
Let's take a break then at this point. 7:30. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Our guests in the studio this morning, Magi Ireri, the CEO of Tifa Research, and Makali Mulu, the MP for Kitui Central. We are talking about the significance of polling during elections. Why do we need them? How are they conducted? How do we get to a level where we can actually trust the kind of polls that we see out there? That's the conversation. And Maggie is also even throwing and adding us into the mix. When these polls are released as media houses, do we publish without questioning? Do we also publish the methodology used so that people can understand how the results were arrived at? 7:30. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
Una postoria tuni real news. Mimi sikuamini mpaka nione sasa hizo vis. Una text online to me tunanifeel. Staki jokes ama mitakuripot for real.
Wazazi watoina mayouth wetu. Usidanganywe. Erevuka na ujibambe na burudani safe na masomo mtandaoni.
For information, visit cop.ke-crt.go.ke/report incident on ke-cirt.go.ke or call 0703 042 700. The Communications Authority of Kenya. Mawasiliano kwetu, nguvu kwako.
Are you a woman looking to run for an elective position in the upcoming 2022 general elections? SpiceFM, the home of Kenya's biggest conversation, is inviting you to our studios where you can speak more about your vision and aspirations to an audience of millions of Kenyans as we celebrate women in leadership. For more information, contact us on 0763 969797.
The sun's coming out in Nairobi at 16. We'll see highs of 28 and lows of 15 today. At 15, Nakuru is sunny, highs of 29 and lows of 13. It's sunny at 11 in Nyeri, highs of 29 and lows of 19. While the sun is out in Eldoret as well at 11, we'll see highs of 27 today. Cloudy conditions in Mombasa at 25, highs of 32. While in Malindi, we'll see highs of 31. It's cloudy at 25 as well. In Kisumu, 18 degrees and sunny, highs of 30 and lows of 18. While in Kakamega, sunny at 18, we'll go to highs of 31 and lows of 15. Cloudy conditions in Kampala at 21, highs of 28 and lows of 20. While the sun is out in Dar es Salaam at 26, it'll go to highs of 31 and lows of 25. Sunny conditions at 16 in Joburg, 26 will be the high and lows of 15. Mostly clear in Lagos at 27, highs of 33 and lows of 26. And it's cloudy in Kinshasa at 23. That'll be today's low, going to highs of 31.
Spice up your life.
All right, Langata Road still heavy. Jogoo Road is doing the same, and we're seeing Lunga Lunga as well joining that, spilling over to the Likoni interchange and then connecting with the Southern Bypass, but not too terrible. Southern Bypass is free and clear all the way into the city centre. Coming off Langata Road, we're going to see Raila Odinga Way with some traffic then heading towards the roundabout on Gong Road, out then towards Community, and then joining with Haile Selassie that continues. Coming out of Westlands, State House, Kileleshwa, that whole area is moving very, very slowly. Thika Superhighway is thumping with traffic this morning. It's bumper to bumper all the way past the junction at Outering, and it's spilling over towards Zimmerman out past Clayworks today. Quite a lot of traffic on the Thika Superhighway. Folks back from the weekend doing the business on Monday. Let's keep an eye on things. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
Continues in the Situation Room online, Spice FM KE on YouTube and Facebook. With us in the studio this morning, the Honourable Makali Mulu, the MP for Kitui Central, and Maggie Ireri, the CEO of Tifa Research. We're talking about the significance of polling during elections. As we were going to the break, Mheshimiwa, you talked about, credibility of the polling stations and the pollsters, and you said it's important to have some self-regulating body like we have lawyers, accountants, engineers, and all. And Maggie, you said, yes, there is a polling agency association, but is it really strong enough to do that self-regulation? Does it do it?
What the association has done, and I want to basically say it's a good thing they've done. They've come up with standards. They've even recommended the sample size that should be done. They brought us together as researchers, and we've harmonized our questionnaires. Mm-hmm. So in terms of setting the standards and providing guidance in the best way possible, I think the Market and Research Association, which is MSRA, has done a fantastic job. Mm. Now, in terms of policing pollsters, especially the ones that are not doing a good job, to some extent, I would say not very well, but perhaps it's an issue of scope and resources. Because some of the agencies that are perhaps not doing a good job are not members, and also it would require a lot of resources to go out and check on them. Mm. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I would actually give them a 7, meaning that there is room for improvement. And I, being a member of the Market and Social Research Association, would work with the members to ensure this is done.
Okay. We're looking at the significance of polling, and there's a comment that you made, Maggie, said, well, it's not necessarily that would members of the public look at the results of the poll and then make a decision on how they would vote. But for politicians, Mheshimiwa, it is very important to hear where you are in terms of positioning, to hear where you are in terms of the opinions of the members of public around you. So politicians being actors in an electoral process, the other side of it are those who are going to vote, who are also part of this electoral process. Mm. So the significance of polling on the decisions that the electorate will make, then, for me, is this based on some of these results, or is it just information that's floating out there? How significant, then, is polling for the half of those in the process that are going to make the decision at the vote, at the ballot?
So, the question is, if I see as a voter, if I see an opinion poll, does it influence my vote? Yeah. And I just want to give you an example. And this happened, I think, in the election of 2007, where there was Kalonzo on the ballot box, and there was Kibaki and so on, and Raila Odinga. Consistently, the polls were showing that Kalonzo would get 10% for the presidency. Mm. And when the ECK results came out, after the election, he had 9%. So what happened is that we decided to check what was the case. So my colleague, Dr. Tom Wolf, traveled to Machakos and Ukambaniland, and he was doing some qualitative research. And he was asking people, did you see the opinion polls that were published by the company then? Mm. Yes. What percentage was given to your candidate? They'd say, yeah, our candidate was getting about 10%. Mm. And then, did it change how you voted? And the answer was no. And he asked them why. He said, although he was getting 10%, we wanted to vote for him because even though he doesn't become president now, he could be a key person in another election. Mm. And if you realize after that election, Kibaki needed an ally. Who did he go for? even for the 10% guy.
Mr. 10%.
Yes. So what am I saying is opinion polls do not necessarily change the voting behavior. In fact, there are people who decide, I want to vote for this person and I will stick to it. So that's one example. Let me give you another one. Another example is in this, I think 2013 election, you had Martha Karua, Peter Kenneth,
Salim Mudavadi.
All those guys. There was one candidate who was voted for even higher than Peter Kenneth
And Martha
Karua, and that was Dida. You remember him?
Yeah.
He actually got more votes than the other people. So I think at that point, Kenyans just decided, there's too much circus here. Let me go and vote for this particular person. But where voters are really, really passionate about a candidate, they're unlikely to change their vote. But the Dida example was a lot of, maybe then decided, Kenyans who said, this election
Did you actually do a research on that, on why Dida got the votes?
Yes.
And what was the reason?
The reason was that the choices available to them were not making sense. And they decided, and this was mainly the undecided voters, they decided, since I cannot make a decision, why don't I just vote for this person?
Prior to the election, Maggie, was the undecided vote that high?
Okay, what we're saying...
such that you can say that, there was this high percentage of undecided voters, and then you can directly translate and say, we can see them then going to Abduba Dida.
Okay, so usually, if you look at the candidate A and number 1 and 2, their percentages did not vary. Then you had, when we were doing the polls, we had percentages for Martha Karua, for Peter Kenneth, and undecided. When you look at the numbers that moved from those 3 categories to Dida, they were equal. So if you, let's say, 2% off Peter Kenneth, 3% off Martha Karua, and then they're decided maybe reduced by a certain percent, they actually went to Dida. But you can see they were moving not from very strong candidates to a candidate who was probably not very strong either.
The period you mentioned, the 2007-2008, prior to Kalonzo getting that 10%, the time Kalonzo was leading in the polls.
Yes.
Literally leading everyone.
Yes.
So how did that come about, and what brought about the dip? Because the dip was just as significant as the
Drop
rise.
to 10.
Yes. He was leading. I mean, he was ahead.
You know what would happen? That's why I said, actually, if the results are really genuine, you can easily change the story. After he was leading for some time, the other candidates went out there and started campaigning. And when you are down there, then you need to campaign to improve your rating. And basically, that's what the polls now become very important. They can inform your strategy in terms of how you campaign. But if you look at Dida, what happened is, there was a presidential debate just a few weeks to the election. And we all agree, because I watched it. The guy did quite well.
He represented himself very well.
He presented himself very well. And as a result of that, the Kenyans who are not decided, and then Kenyans who are looking for a leader who could just provide what they want, I think they saw it in Dida. So that presidential debate really also helped him to get more votes. But I think what is happening basically is, because of the things we are discussing here, there is a lot of brushing off of the results. When they are released, Kenyans we are used to this. These are just being cooked from somewhere. So that's why I was saying, for me, if we improve the credibility of the results, they can actually inform voting.
So then maybe a secondary question would be,
yes,
what significance then do these polls hold for the electorate?
Not much now, I can tell you for sure, because what is happening, Kenyan politics by nature are tribal and regional. And unless we break that pattern, then that's why you find opinion polling always remains at the back there, because anytime they are list, you see, like now, when you release Raila as a result showing he's leading, we say, we know that farm, they work for him. When you release Ruto as leading, we say, we know that. So at the end of the day, the results are just taken very casually.
Sure.
And I wish we were in a situation where, to me, I think that's where the issue of quality control and regulation becomes very important. And I think the government is also failing us. Because I think if the market cannot regulate themselves, then the government would come with a minimum requirements that for you to be in this sector, we require a farm to do 1, 2, 3. And if possible, to do a bit of licensing, so that as you license, there are minimum requirements to make sure that the people who are in that sector are people who because we need these results, by the way, they're very important. We need them.
Mheshimiwa, let me give you a parallel example to what you're saying. Yeah? There's a spiritual industry called preaching. Eh?
Yes.
Yes, it is an industry.
Yes.
And it's a growth one. And there have been various discussions about what should be the minimum requirement for someone to present themselves as a purveyor of the good news. Okay? It's an ongoing debate. But this particular industry influences the lives of very many people, whether you like it or not. And more so, when a country is going through hardship, the importance increases because they offer you something that relieves some of the pressures and pains that everyday life affords you. Okay? Now, that was just a by the way. What I really want to ask is this, when you formulate questions for polling, okay, what is it that you take into consideration regarding the response that you will receive, knowing Kenyans as we do? Because what you ask and what they understand you to be asking and what they think they ought to tell you determine what you get. How then do you ensure that the information that you actually gather is representative of what you wanted to actually collect?
Okay, so let me not talk about sampling because we already covered that. So we're talking about the questioning and how the data is collected. Yes. Number one, we've already have there are standard ways of asking these questions, and they've already been tested and tried to be ideal.
Where were they tested?
They were tested in Kenya.
Okay.
Yes, we tested in Kenya. Does this question, is it misleading? Is it biased? And so on.
And the sample sizing, was it random? Or how did you go about this testing?
But then we've been doing this testing. We've been polling from, I think, 2000. So we've gone through series of asking many questions. If I was to look at all the sample sizes that we've done over the last few years, it could be over 20,000 respondents.
Good.
Now, once you do that, there's also what you call translations. I cannot ask you a question if you don't understand the language that I'm speaking. So the questionnaires are translated. And even the translations are checked whether they make sense. Now, after that, the researcher, especially on the key question, evaluations are to be held today, who do you vote for? It is a rule that we should not prompt the respondents with names. That is a standard. And the other thing we do also as an agency, and this is also for quality control, because the interviews are recorded, whether I'm doing it telephonically or I'm doing it face-to-face. You hear the researcher asking the question, and you confirm that the question was asked in the best way possible. Then you hear the respondent answering. And from our server, because the information is streaming in live, you check how the question was asked, how the response was given. Then also right now what has happened is that agencies are using what you call collecting data using a mobile app. So our researchers have an app on their phone and they go to a particular area. You're even able to check the GPS coordinates of where that interview was done and confirm that it was done in the right sampling point to ensure that the sample was well distributed across the country. Now, with those quality controls, at least you're able to say to a certain degree that you have done a good job and a professional job and there's no bias in the data collection.
In the collection, so what percentage you give the margin of error?
The margin of error is dependent on the sample size. So right now, for a national sample, we're taking a sample size of 1,500. Margin of error is plus or minus 2.7%, which I'd round it off to 3%. So, and again, by the way, quantity, you can end up with a sample size of 10,000, and I can have a sample size of 1,500. Now, if the sampling is done very well for both, the results will be the same.
The same results.
Yes. The issue is how, it's not the quantity, it's the quality of your sampling.
But on the question of the questionnaire, I think questionnaire development is also a skill, you know. So there are people who develop the first draft, then you have teams to discuss and agree on some of these things. So because you don't just write and push it to the respondent, there must be some technical work which goes into it in terms of design so that you get the right questions which are neutral. You don't bias the respondent in terms of answering. And I think that's what you're really saying, that before you go out there, this question will have to be subject to serious debate, discussion, so that you get a good question. There's also pilot testing where you do with a few people just to confirm that the respondents are what you expect in terms of neutrality, in terms of being clear and all those things.
Right. Well, Shima, previously you had mentioned, countries where polling is taken extremely seriously. Like the US, for example, we see that there are media polls, there are independent polls, there are, so many. And this is something that's actually then consumed by the public, that people are going to ask questions, all right, closer to the election. What are the polls saying? Because then we can see that the decision could be altered or fueled by the results of a particular poll. How do you think they got to that point where they developed it so much so that it can be depended upon to then make a decision. In this case, a lot of times rubbished by politicians sometimes and say, well, look, how can this poll from this particular company or media house said this one, this thing, and this other one said, I'm going to go with that, obviously for, self-expediency. Why do they then, why have they gotten to the point whereby they almost believe in it like a second religion?
The first thing is doing it over time, and the results of the polling becoming a reality when the results are announced. That, for example, we say, like you said, so and so will get 10%. When the results are announced, you're just around that, with the allowed margin of error. If that is done over time, then people will trust it. And the second thing is the issue of integrity. As we said, integrity as a value is something which is lacking in most of the developing world. But those countries you're talking about, people will do the right thing, irrespective of who gets hurt by that decision. So they will say this is the position, and there's nothing like calling somebody after you've done your results are published without calling anybody or talking to anybody.
But then we've also talked about the Bradley effects.
Yes.
And whether people will actually get to a point where they feel the pressure coming from opinion pollsters and they see, let me just give you the answer that you seem to be wanting, and so we can move on. Does that play a part here?
I think that was, if you remember when Trump first got elected, I think that was in 2016, yeah?
2016.
And the way the US was doing opinion poll, then it's either an online or an IVR. It's an automated voice response. They call you and they say, if you're going to vote for Trump, press 1, etc., etc. So what they found out, that whatever they predicted was actually slightly different from the actual election outcome. And the Bradley effect came in such a way that, in various ways, number one, Trump supporters were not participating in the opinion polls. So they'd get called, they would say no. Now, some of them, especially women, lied that they were supporting another candidate. Because you remember Trump had
the
a
opponent
lot
was
of
a woman.
issues. Also, the way he was talking about women was a big issue. So it happened that the pollsters did not factor in all those issues. And eventually, you had outcomes that were different. Now, how do you counter that? Ideally, in addition to doing the opinion polls, the quantitative, I know you're calling people, though there could have been room to do a bit of qualitative research. Qualitative research is where you go on the ground, I talk to you, I can tell by your body language, I can tell about the way you're responding. Perhaps you could be giving the wrong information. Now, if I come back to Kenya, we've not had that issue yet. Because I remember, like, there are quite a number of elections that have been predicted, right, like by pollsters. Remember the referendum for 2005? Pollsters got it right. I remember we even did an election in Zambia, got it right. I remember we even did an opinion poll in Malindi by-election, we got it right. So most of the times, the pollsters get it right. But assuming that this issue is raised, I think it's a responsibility of pollsters to say, in addition to doing quantitative research, let's do a bit of qualitative to see whether that effect is there or not. And that, again, the onus is on the professionalism of the pollsters to actually say, let's go beyond the numbers and understand what is happening. But just, one last thing. But I'd just like to say, a lot of, although we poll, the results sometimes don't end up being the same. The key thing is voter turnout. Because by the time you're polling, you're assuming 100% voter turnout. Number two, there could be a major political event that happens. Our last-minute alliance that was done after the last poll was published. So polls are not necessarily bulletproof because there are quite a number of factors that could change.
Why assume 100% voter turnout when we know that never happens anywhere?
Well, you don't have history of voters.
Nowhere. Except for dictatorships, where somebody gets, and even then they don't get 100, they get 97, 98.
But today,
yes,
are you able to predict the voter turnout across the whole country by regions, by sub-counties, and factor it in the model for opinion polling? Right now, it's impossible.
You can only go from historical behavior.
Yes.
So I wanted to ask about commissioned polls. Do you get politicians who come and commission a poll? I mean, they just want to understand whether what the issues of the voters are. Do you get such?
Yes, in fact, if I was to look at this year, maybe from mid last year, vis-a-vis the last election cycle, The number of politicians who are doing private polls has increased. And we're seeing that for the seat of governor, MP. Those are the two, I think those are the hottest seats. And they're commissioning polls and using those polls to make a decision. So if I could give you an example, not from this election, but from a previous election, we did a research for a governor, and his ratings were not very high. We did 3 rounds of research. And then in the first round, his rating was actually below 15%. And we analyzed the data by ward and etc. And he was able to tell where he's doing well, where he's doing poorly. He then went to about 10 wards, and then we did another research. And we could see very clearly that in the 10 wards that he had visited and had very customized messages, his numbers went up. So now for the next season, again, he said, these are the issues in these wards. I'm going to go there in person.
Did he win?
Yes.
Yeah, you can actually package.
Because my next question was, did he pay you?
No. This was a professional contract. etc. He paid and he won and he's been a 2-term governor now.
Do you see then a direct result of taking that poll information, acting on the information, and then being able to get to a certain point because that information then was given to you? Can you see that traceability and say, actually, you know what, this information, data collected, then I can act on it?
Yes, it's very actionable. And also, I'd like to say, even for a governor candidate, not only is he finding out about himself, he's finding about senatorial seat, women rep, and the MP seat. So he even knows if he's going to a particular constituency, is he going to hang out with Honorable Makali, or because he's ranked number 1, or is he going to campaign with number 2? So, to be honest, in this year, I have seen the highest usage of data, interrogation, discussion, and also the data informing campaign strategy.
And actually, it's going to be even much more as we approach the elections. You know why? This year, unlike other years, nominations are going to be very, very tricky. And they're going to be a big challenge, and more so open nominations. So what parties are going to do? They are going to use actually scientific opinion polling to determine which areas, who is popular where, in terms of now issuing the party certificates. That is going to be very common this year. Because you've realized now, with these coalitions, so many parties are coming together, and then you don't know who is who. You want to give your ticket to who, and on the basis of that. So we'll be running to Madam Maggie to do that, and then tell the parties who is more popular and who is likely to win. Then on the basis of that, we call it proper targeting, so that you don't miss that seat. Because parties are now looking for more members in parliament as a party. So there's going to be quite a lot of work in terms of opinion polling. But no, unlike the other one, this one is more tailored. You can't bias it, because I'm telling you, I want to know the truth, and I'm paying for that. So you must give me the truth.
You're the consumer of this, not the
so
public.
that when I'm looking at the results, I can know where I'm weak, where I'm strong, and then package my messaging, other strategy accordingly, so that I win the seat.
Yeah. And so, Maggie, when a client like that has come to you once, twice, thrice, and now you're doing a general county opinion polling, are you likely to favor them? When you're now looking at the popularity of governors and various, or the popularity of candidates in the election?
Definitely not. In fact, let me give an example. There's one particular candidate we did for research. This was for an MP seat. He was polling poorly, extremely poorly. He was only number 3. He was like number 7. And we had a discussion with him and said, these results are not favoring you. Either work hard or you pull out. He pulled out. So we don't change our data. So let me come back to your question. So assuming I was to do a survey that is touching on that county, and perhaps this has been my client before, would I change the results? Definitely not. Because as a professional, it is my responsibility to say the truth and publish the right information.
Okay. Of the number of times when you conduct polls, what percentage of times would you say you get it wrong?
That's a tricky question.
Huh?
Yeah, that's a tricky question.
Let's conclude the conversation. On that note, we want to thank you very much for joining us. The Honourable Makali Mulu, MP for Kitui Central Constituency, and Maggie Reri, the CEO of Tifa Research. We've been talking about polls, and John has conducted a poll as we were having the conversation, our producer. On social media, on YouTube specifically, do you trust opinion polls during elections? 72% no, yes, 27%. Mheshimiwa, ask him.
The sampling is
sampling.
biased. Sampling is biased.
Interrogate the results.
No, interrogate the results.
We need to know the demographics, where they're coming from and everything, and how the question was asked.
Thank you very much for tuning in. Keep it right here. More conversations coming up in the next hour. Very good morning to you. It's 8 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newsman Dennis Azeto. Deputy President William Ruto has dismissed his political opponents for attempting to guide and lecture him on how to carry out his duties as the nation's DP. He said no one should dare teach him how to carry out his duties to Kenyans, warning those in the opposition to stay out of his business because they lack the moral authority to do so. Ruto reiterated that the Jubilee government is solely a collaboration between him and President Uhuru Kenyatta and that its agenda is unknown to them. Meanwhile, Kenya Council principals are pledged to end conflicts in Kerio Valley once elected into office. They say their government will come up with a Marshall Plan to ensure peace prevails in the area, which has witnessed loss of lives and property due to constant banditry attacks. Kenya Council Brigade, led by Deputy President William Ruto, took the Hustler Movement campaigns to Baringo to popularize the bottom-up economic model and the political pact. The team will be in Nyeri town today for the launch of the region's economic charter before the rallies tomorrow. Now, former Water Cabinet Secretary Cecily Kariuki has dismissed perceptions that the influence of President Uhuru Kenyatta's Jubilee Party in the Mount Kenya region has been thinning ahead of the August general elections. Kariuki last week threw herself into the political arena after resigning from her state position in line with a directive from the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission. She is seeking to contest for Nyandarua County's governorship under a Jubilee ticket in a move that will pit her against the region's incumbent governor, Francis Kimemia. The National Police Service has dismissed a circular doing rounds on social media purporting that the entity is actively recruiting new members to its ranks. According to NPS, the circular is false and should be treated as such owing to the fact that National Police Service recruitment announcements are solely made on mainstream media. National Police Service consequently added that all recruitment announcements are relayed to all police stations across the country, as such civilians can easily verify their authenticity. Now, the race for Laikipia governorship continues to take shape after the incumbent governor Nderitu Muridi is set to launch his re-election bid on Sunday. The Laikipia governor will seek his re-election on a party of national unity in the August 9, 2022 general election. Several top politicians allied to Azimio la Umoja are expected to accompany the governor, including Murang'a women representatives Sabina Chege in Oljabet, Maile Saba and Nyahururu, where he will announce his second-term bid. And Kenya's cross-border trade with Tanzania is on an unprecedented upward trajectory as the economy rebounds from the devastating effects of COVID-19 pandemic, with latest economic data between the two East Africa's nations showing trade volumes in excess of 40 billion shillings for the year 2021. The East Africa Business Council disclosed that from January to November of 2021, Kenya exported goods worth 40 billion shillings to Tanzania. During the same period, the country imported goods valued 50 billion shillings from Tanzania. This is the highest traded value of goods and services between the two countries since 2018. The Chief Executive Officer of EABC, John Bosco, said the value of trade between the two countries indicated notable resilience of the economies. This was supported by strengthened ties among traders in the two countries. First Lady Margaret Kenyatta has encouraged more women to take up professional golfing, saying the sport presents opportunities for excellence just like athletics and other disciplines. The First Lady said the increased number of women golfers participating in this year's magical Kenya Ladies Open was proof of the sport's growing prospects. First Lady Margaret Kenyatta was speaking during the prize-giving ceremony of the magical Kenya Ladies Open at Vipingu Ridge, where she also encouraged talented youth to pursue sporting careers. And finally, Kenya Ports Authority boosted their chances of advancing to this year's playoff finals in the men's league after trouncing Equity Bank Duma 75-56 in Game 4 of their semi-final matchup at Makande Social Hall in Mombasa. Their latest victory leveled the best of 5 series at 2-2, a feat that set up a pulsating Game 5 today afternoon, with the winner set to meet defending champions Ulinzi Warriors. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Saseto. Good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Langata Road, my goodness. Once you're on it, you really can't get off it, can you now? Have some of it spilling over to Raila Odinga Way and then going then towards the center of the city. So part of Langata Road, and this is from the cutoff at the petrol station through to the Nyeri Stadium roundabout, has been shut off. Sorry. Aerodrome Road now is your option in terms of what you can use going that direction. We're seeing a lot of traffic on Gong Road today going out towards Community, and quite some on the on Valley Road going towards Kenyatta Avenue. So there's a mishmash of traffic there. It still continues on Jogo Road, and it's very tight all the way from Hamza out then towards the city. Bumper to bumper traffic on the Thika Superhighway getting into town. Kiambu Road is also doing its thing. I don't even know how many lanes we're at right now, but quite a lot of traffic, guys. Coming out of Western, same thing. Okay, so what do? We use the bypasses. Southern, Eastern not looking too bad. The Red Hill Link Road will afford you some reprieve. Think about it. And then let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. And then text on 40127.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your...
My mic is now on. 7 minutes after 8. Good morning. How are you doing? Welcome to the third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. We are live on SpiceFM. We are also live on YouTube, on Facebook, and for the next 1 hour, we are live on KTN Home. Happy 14th of February 2022. This is the day that the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority will be telling us whether bei ya mafuta napanda ama nasuka. Any other thing that happens on the 14th of February takes the back stage at this point, back seat at this point, because bei ya mafuta bwana. Bei ya mafuta imepanda sana. Siti Muga has the day's proverb.
Pasipo meno hapavunjiki mfupa.
Sema tena tafadhali.
Kama meno hapana iko.
Wow.
Vunja mifupa.
Ye pia hapana iko. Pasipo meno hapavunjiki mfupa.
Okay.
Vunja mifupa kama bado meno iko.
Yes, it's a song.
No, it isn't. Okay, sorry.
Sawa basi.
You looked at me.
Sini sawa. You know what I mean? It's okay.
Ni sawa.
It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah. John Gereza, I heard you saying that it's not a song.
It was a song by somebody called Samba Mapangala.
Samba Mapangala.
Samba Mapangala.
Yes. It's a song. A very popular song.
Now you're just making stuff up.
Eric, do you hear what our sister here is saying?
Si ndio.
Okay.
We are even making Samba Mapangala up.
The some bit she believes is right. Mapangala is saying is a name like Mapangala. Yes, there's a guy by the name of Samba Mapangala.
Okay. So, if you look at the headline in the Standard today, 6 issues that voters want leaders to fix. The ground speaks. Too many Kenyans have been denied quality education, locking them out of jobs and confining them to poverty. Voters want the economy fixed, agriculture revamped, and steps taken to reduce inequality. And it looks at the numbers here. It says 16.5 million Kenyans hold the same amount of wealth as the 2 richest people in the country, exposing the high levels of economic inequality. 17.2 million people in Kenya are poor. The rural poor spend less than 3,250 per month. The urban poor spend less than 1,000 sita. 42% of households in Nairobi have access to piped water, but the water in slums is contaminated, exposing families to health risks. 3.4 million people have no academic certificates, meaning they are locked out of modern jobs that require skills and innovation. Every 2 in 5 people in West Pokot, Turkana and Garissa have access to formal financial services. The remaining 3 of 5 can neither save nor get bank loans. Now, we are heading into an election. What is it that's going to be the agenda of this election? What will you be looking out for when you're talking to, when the leaders are coming to you asking for your vote? If you just look at some of the information shared here by Dominic Omondi in the story, in the Standard, it talks about, for example, education. It says close to half of Kenyans have only a primary school certificate. Another 3.4 million people have no academic certificate at all, meaning that they probably only have their names on their birth certificates. I found that funny. Yet the structure of the economy is changing, with more jobs being automated as the economy demands workers with skills, competencies and innovation. Talk about agriculture. 3/4 of Kenyans live in arid and semi-arid areas where rainfall is inadequate for most of the year. These areas receive 612 millimeters or less of rainfall annually. Often, the rains come late or they don't come at all. Counties like Homa Bay and Migori have some of the highest potential agricultural lands behind Narok. But even here, the picture is not so rosy, because 28% or so of families in the 2 counties do not engage in farming. This compromises their diets and denies them income from selling excess farm produce. These and many others are basically the indicators of where we are at as a country. More and more Kenyans are going into poverty. Even when you talk about job and job creation, in the last 10 years, this economy has consistently churned out an average of over 800,000 jobs every year. The employment numbers look impressive, but a substantial chunk of these employed work in the informal sector or are subsistence farmers. Unemployment, going by the strict definition of those actively looking for work, has also remained at below 10%, and by the end of 2020, it had reached a low of 5.4%. Numbers. But there are issues that people are dealing with today.
Indeed. And some of those issues, I mean, you would sometimes assume that with the political temperatures that we see and some of the things that are being spewed out there, that these issues don't matter. But hearing from what Kenyans have to say, very interestingly enough, struggling to feed. We're not talking about that there's not enough. We're saying struggling to have even 1 meal a day is an issue that a lot of Kenyans have today. House and educate their children is another issue. The ability to house and educate their children because they don't have enough coming in to be able to do this. That there is a worry amongst mothers that should they deliver in hospital, they're worried that whether their children will actually leave the 4 walls of a hospital alive. So we're looking at maternal and childcare, an issue for a lot of people. We're seeing that job seekers and workers are struggling to find a balance between what they can earn and the high cost of living. That what can they actually spend, what they earn on, that will allow them to afford it. Can you actually afford the life that is currently handed to you with the income that you currently have? These are the issues that people are concerned about. Can you find adequate water? Can you find adequate health? So even beyond the numbers, Kenyans are saying today, we are struggling with what would be assumed as non-issues. We're struggling with having 1 complete meal in a day. We're struggling with how we can send children to school. We're struggling with how we will house our families. We're struggling with this job that you have, whatever it is, however much you earn, because we're told in urban Kenya, 5,900 and something shillings is what the basic family is operating on. In rural Kenya, it's less by about 2,000 bob. You're looking at 3,000 shillings per month. And then you're saying, all right, with this that I earn, am I actually going to be able to afford life? Can I put all of those things in the box and still have something extra for a rainy day? And the answer, unfortunately, is no. So, the Messiah is being looked for, not necessarily in a name or a tribe, but the leader is being looked for in the name of the person who is going to be able to come and rally government around to solve some of these issues. They're not worried about a fancy expressway. They're not worried about a swanky SGR. They're not worried about those things. They're worried about staying alive until tomorrow. And we're not talking about a long period forthcoming. We're talking about day to day, today. This is what they're worried about. We're going to wake up tomorrow morning, and that day, those issues are still there. How are we going to get beyond that? And so these are the things that Kenyans are worried about today. And so the question is, all the other things that are being paid so much attention to, how is that decision then being fueled?
How does it translate to this?
Yes.
You know, we've just been talking about collecting data for purpose of polling. There are things we know and we speak of anecdotally, and there are things we speak of because that's what people say, okay? But when you look at data, it's daunting. If you look at just the figures, it's daunting. The thing that concerns me, I was looking at the percentage of people who have access to piped water in this country. If you're looking at Kenya, according to this particular article that we saw, it's 24.2.
Access to piped water.
Piped water.
Right.
Now, the talk about water in this country, in a country where we actually do not have a problem with water, not really. Availability of water per se, that within our boundaries, we do. But is the discussion about how to get this water that we have to where it's needed? When you hear discussion about water, you almost get the impression that it doesn't exist, so it's being looked for. Now, if only 24% of your population, that's just slightly above a fifth of the population, amounts of piped water, it means the other people who have access to water, that water is likely to be compromised. Because even this piped water, in some places, the safety of it is iffy. And yet every single year, the ministries that are involved with ensuring that there's a provision of water for all citizens in the country gets a budget allocation.
Indeed.
Now, surely shouldn't the number of people who have the access to this simple commodity that they all need, should it not be of a higher percentile than what is being presented here, if we believe everything that is being presented here? When you have a country where the very basics are still our discussion, 50, how many years after independence?
Right.
Exactly.
And the basics, the basics
mere
is what we are looking at.
Basics.
Yeah.
There's nothing complicated. Just what you need to be able to stay alive. Forget healthy, alive. It is an issue. So, when politicians drive around, and these fellows do not, nobody campaigns with the bicycles. At least I don't see very many of them.
Well, there's one fella who's doing it on a motorbike. I think we saw a story the other day.
Okay. One person on a motorbike.
But it's interesting because for him, it was just more convenience, right? Not necessarily because he didn't want to show off affluence, but because, look, it's easier to get around from place to place in a constituency on a motorbike.
You see, why I mentioned this, yesterday, I saw some vehicles, some really humongous vehicles parked at a petrol station on the way from my official residence. Okay? What caught my eye was the size of the vehicles and then the branding. And I was thinking, okay, what do these vehicles represent? In my mind, it kept playing in my mind. It's opulence.
Affluence.
Mm-hmm. Then you want to take this to the areas that have the largest population.
Yes.
Of people who cannot afford that affluence.
Yes. Because that's what they're using to judge you.
Yeah.
You see, that's the other thing. Yeah. The other side of this coin. That
came
whole
on a bicycle,
story,
they would not
59 years of independence, people don't have access to piped water, potable water, clean, safe consumption, food security, access to food. That's not the conversation that the voter is having. The reason why the politician is coming in that very big vehicle, branded, a very loud PA system, is because that's what the voter is using to judge, among other things. Otherwise, if it was a conversation about water, we would not be having it.
Are you saying then there's no connection with what the voter now is going through at that moment? Because if they're attending that rally, they're not at that point, and I'm assuming it's a rally, right? At that point, they're not concerned with, okay, am I actually going to go home and eat something today, right? At that point, they're encapsulated with this whole thing of, here is this individual, they've come in a helicopter, they've come in a huge guzzler, whatever. If they came in anything less, I probably wouldn't take them seriously. I probably wouldn't even be here. Is there a divorce from what is happening at that moment when that politician shows up and the real situation where the important basics that they do not have is happening? So is there a clash of realities here? That here you are saying, when I'm hearing from you as a would-be politician, I'm not concerned about what's happening when I go home to my shelter at night. I'm not thinking about it. There's no meeting point between the two. You have your situation where you've come from in the morning and you go to this rally and you're listening to this politician and you're not really thinking, okay, here I am. I don't expect them to come on a bicycle or whatever to come and talk to me. I expect them to come and show me something that would make me think that they could get me out of the situation that I'm in.
I think my very simple and basic look into this is all these candidates, the only the big vehicle with a medium vehicle, with a helicopter, bicycle, are coming to talk about the same issue, water. Okay? Because in this area, what we have an issue is water, accessing water. We don't have the water pump. So the big guy and the small guy will all come and say how we are going to address the water issue. Now, our politics has managed very well over very many years to convince us that these issues cannot be solved very easily. I mean, they require a lot. A lot of work, a lot of money, a lot of time, very many years to solve it. You saw the other time how long it took so and so to get that dam. Did you see how long it took? It takes a lot. Our politics has managed to convince us that. So you look at, who is likely to have that kind of influence to even move this needle a little bit towards getting water to come here? Even if it's not going to come in the next 5 years, at least in the next 15, 20 years, there will be some water some point. And that's why now the conversation is, this person is coming with vehicles and they look like they are very close to so-and-so who's at the county or at the national level, so they are likely to influence. That's why a project such as Thwake Dam is not about the people of Ukambani. It's about who's in power.
For whom was it a legacy project?
Yes. Thwake Dam is not... Thwake Dam can solve very many issues. But no, Thwake Dam is, let's bring in, so who is in charge, who's going to bring the president, so who will be on top of that delegation, who's spearheading the movement to come and have the president inspect the progress of Thwake Dam. That is it. So if you're not aligned to that politician who brought the president to come and look at Thwake Dam, my friend, we cannot trust that you're going to sort out our water issues.
Eric, you actually analyzed these things and concluded really well, because even as you're speaking, I was thinking, it is for that reason that people want to conduct harambes for churches, for schools. Essentially, you are trying to display ability and capacity in the hope that it will be understood that should you ascend to that seat that you want, you will be able to do more of the same. And then the conspicuous display of these extremely expensive vehicles and a convoy of similarly expensive vehicles is to show, again, capacity. But it reminds me of the effects of a movie. When you're watching it, you're immersed in it. And it really does something for you for a while. But the stark reality of your life, unfortunately, will dim that movie. But at the back of your mind, there'll be something in that movie that you'll keep remembering and hoping it would become your reality. Now, the Kenyan voter, at some level, gives the impression that they've been able to divorce this display which in essence is a movie, and the reality of their lives at some level. But some level, I think they've been held captive by it. Because it's not a movie, it's a series. You're being entertained by wannabe MCAs, wannabe MPs, wannabe senators, all these people, and they're a number. And then there's the big presidential debate and the big presidential convoys and what have you.
Yeah.
Why do I bring this issue? Something Eric mentioned during the break. We have in the country, not arguably, conclusively, the most educated parliament we've ever had. The professionals who are in this parliament, it's an astounding number. Coupled with that, we have a parliament, now this one is arguably either the most highly paid parliament on the planet or one of the, and yet they are by far the most wishy-washy parliament this country has actually ever seen. With the new constitution and everything that's available in it and the things that could be done to ensure in terms of oversight that the citizenry actually get what they deserve, so that this discussion we're having would be just a peripheral discussion of so much has been done, but this little bit remains. But the discussion is so much hasn't been done. And the little that we see is not worth the money that we know has been expended to supposedly achieve what was required. So the conundrum, even as we talk about the poverty and we talk about what is lacking, the question that is in my mind is, when will this debate stop? Because it's a debate that we've had there is no debate that has lasted this long in this country.
In terms of what? That if you know that these individuals, as educated as they are, coming together because they make the law, right? They oversight. They do everything that would essentially be necessary to alleviate these issues that we are talking about today. They have the power.
Yes.
And yet it is not done. But then at the other side, we're being asked, well, the citizen continues to put these individuals back in over and over. That's the debate. You keep putting them back in. You're saying they're not working. You watch the movie for some time. You're enamored by all the action. And then you go home to your existence where you're eating crumbs. Why do you continue voting them back in tomorrow?
It's what Eric said. One of the... It's not associative dissonance. You see, at some point, we remain associated with them. Poor as we are, suffering as we are, so long as I can claim some connection, in my mind, my poverty lessens. I'm not as badly off. Because so long as that person has that, even the most nebulous of connections, I believe this situation that I'm in is not permanent. So we live in perpetual hope.
But then it's hurtling really quickly towards permanence. And that's the disturbing thing.
Yes.
That you've been having this conversation in the mind. And it could be, multiplied across board. That folks are thinking, okay, I was in the presence of such for some time and I'm feeling better about my situation. But you'll find that over time, with every cycle, that you're having the same conversation with yourself. So why is it so difficult to break free from that love-hate relationship with your would-be leader who doesn't do anything for you but just keeps you there?
Do consider.
It's like the rat that's never eaten by the cat, is just played with around every now and then, keeps you alive, knocks you about every now and then, doesn't kill you, but keeps you alive for you to continue to be a play toy.
He gets to believe that he needs the cat to stay alive.
Consider the discussions we've had in this very, very same room about this very same thing. And consider the aspects that we've discussed regarding why it is, you asked it, we keep electing the same people over and over and over again. And yet, when people speak, they say they are tired of this person. And we even see them changing. Someone else is elected. That is an expression now the voter feels they've exercised power. Because they do have that power. And yet, the attendant results, unfortunately, in many cases, ends up being the same, if not worse. The individual who you thought would bring about change, brings about change, yes, but not the change that you actually desired. Now, when I think about it, it's something that I have to ponder and I have to ask myself, is this situation as helpless and hopeless as we represent it sometimes? Or are we also so finely tuned to the mishaps that our minds just gravitate towards what is considered negative as opposed to the possibilities of something better happening?
The thing is, does it really matter what the issues are right now affecting the people as we head towards the general election? The conversation we're having this morning is at 6 issues that voters want leaders to fix. The headline in the Standard this morning, State of the Nation, talking about the issues agriculture, education. We're talking about levels of poverty, employment, job creation and all. What are these issues that matter? Let's ask you so you can even join the conversation as well. What is your most pressing need today that you'd like your next leader to fix? What is your most pressing need today that you'd like the next leader to fix? 0719-012-600. Is it education? Is it about jobs? Is it about education, health? Is it about access to water, access to food, markets? Is it about business, making a better conducive environment for business? What is it? Let's hear from you. After the break, we are live on KTN Home, SpiceFM and online, 8:30.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
This nation has never healed genuinely from the 2000-2008 violence. We've never had a healing process. We've swept it under the rug.
Let me tell you, the handshake was the most disastrous political event in the history of country after the coup attempt of 1982.
There's no Kikuyu pothole, Luo lack of water,
Right.
or Kamba, lack of traffic.
Yeah.
There is no Luya lack of drugs in the hospitals. Or Jaluo one. All our issues are the same issues.
If you are in a room and just about everybody in that room has a court case or another, what impression does that give you?
What are you saying? Why haven't you done it in the last 20 years? But they're telling us, like August, some miracle is going to happen. My friend, I want to tell Kenyans you'll be in for a rude shock.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
The sun is shining this Monday at 18, highs of 29 and lows of 15. 13 will be the low in Nakuru, where it's sunny at 17. We'll see highs of 29. 29 will also be the high in Nyeri, where it's sunny at 15, coming down to lows of 10 today. 11 will be the low in Eldoret. It's currently sunny at 14, highs of 27. Mostly cloudy conditions in Mombasa at 27, highs of 32. We'll see highs of 31 in Malindi, where it's cloudy at 26. Sunny conditions at 19 in Kisumu, highs of 30 and lows of 18. While in Kakamega, it's sunny at 20, highs of 31 and lows of 17. We're looking at cloudy conditions at 22 in Kampala, highs of 29 and lows of 21. While in Dar es Salaam, it's raining now at 27. It'll go to highs of 31 and lows of 26. Sunny conditions at 18 in Johannesburg, 27 will be the high and lows of 16. We're looking at mostly clear conditions for a change in Lagos at 27, highs of 33 and lows of 26. And it's cloudy in Kinshasa at 22. That'll be today's low, going to highs of 31.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life.
It still continues on the thicker superhighway this morning, still hot and heavy getting into the city, going towards Allsops. Folks are complaining, so much traffic this morning. Well, it's Monday and folks are coming off from their weekend activities. Plus, it's that day. Langata Road, quite some traffic this morning as you get into the city. We're looking at Raila Odinga Way, ebbing and flowing here and there as you get to the roundabout of Gong Road at the city mortuary roundabout. And then it gets really heavy in and outbound right around Community, getting onto Haile Selassie. Westlands is a story. If you don't need to be there right now, don't, because it's quite packed today and it's coming all the way from the city. Wangari Maathai Way is taking off a hit from the thicker superhighway, trying to get towards Westlands or to the city. That looks crazy. So still trying to find out what exactly happened on Thika Road today, but if you can help us out, please do that. Do it on SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Spice FM, Nyeri.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
Kenya's biggest conversation, it continues on KTN. KTN Home, SpiceFM, online, YouTube and Facebook. And we're asking you, what is your most pressing need today that you'd like your next leader to address or to fix? 6 issues that voters want leaders to fix. They include education, employment opportunities, a conducive business environment, access to food, access to healthcare, all these. Then we've been having that conversation earlier. Is there really a connection between what people really feel that this is our pressing need and whether that reflects in the kind of choice of leader? Does it really reflect in, say, a member of parliament is elected because the people's pressing need at the point was, say, education or health, and the person who then connected with them most on the issue of health is the one who got elected?
Sorry, please go ahead.
I think I'm just looking at how you make other decisions in life, right? If your child is in school and they don't seem to be learning, right? Something is going wrong in the learning process. You've done your due diligence and you find out, okay, so maybe this teacher had a particular issue or my child is not doing well in this environment. What would you do? You would change it, right? You would ask for either change the school or go and seek some kind of intervention. If you had a medical issue, health issue, went to doctor, this is not working, what would you do? You would seek a second opinion. This is what people do. It doesn't matter what social strata you find yourself in. You will make a change because you have unsatisfactory results. So why is it that with these things that we see, which clearly affect the way you operate, 1, 2, 3, can be brought to the doorstep of a would-be leader? Why then does it become, is it difficult or a choice to make a change? Because essentially we keep saying, philosophical or not, that the power to make the change rests in your hand as the voter. Why can we make these decisions on a basis with all these other things? But when it comes to something like this, is it difficult, or that grasps with reality then are lacking or are loose?
There's
you
a
wouldn't
term,
make the same.
There's a term we used in the previous discussion we had, and it was one of integrity. Yeah? Yes, we can blame the voter and the citizen for not playing their part, but only up to a point, because they do play their part and they do elect their leader on faith, essentially. There's some evidence that leads with, but predominantly faith. Now, when someone doesn't fulfill the mandate that they even swear before the Almighty and in Parliament that they're going to fulfill, what exactly can the voter do? There's a lot of things that a voter can actually do, or the citizen can do. But this idea of leadership and what leadership entails, we got it wrong. Not only do you get it wrong, we improve on the wrongness of it. It just keeps getting worse and worse and worse, because it's like leadership in this country, fundamentally, it starts off with you not being accountable.
And I don't see the need to be.
Absolutely none whatsoever. And then you focusing on tokenism and appearances of what you think you should do. Now, there are always exceptions to the rule. But when people do not take an oath of office seriously, and they do not take the mandate that they have fought so hard to actually acquire, and their focus is elsewhere, the rot and the disease that we have is far, far more serious. Because at some point we want to be led. That's the truth. Yeah. And that's why we elect these people. They're supposed to tell us this is the path that you follow. We ask about how it is that impunity and corruption has actually seeped into the very sinews of our society. But it's by virtue of the examples that are constantly set. Overwhelmingly so. Somehow people seem to think leadership is about you lying to your people, you getting what you want, and then proceeding to do exactly what you want. And the last consideration is what you actually ought to be doing. And then they'll have the gumption to actually come even to this studio and start telling us about how these people, and this person talking is among these people he's referring to. So the disconnect is so complete. That's why I asked the question, what happens when people actually get elected? There's
a system, City. I think there's something in our political system that has completely taken over. And you'll see, for example, one city Muga will go to Muhoroni and he'll want to be the MP. And you'll mean well. And everybody, and we've heard this from very many politicians, even voters, we are voters. We know that what determines the choice of a voter, well, There'll be those issues of, are you aligned to the party? But politics is local. At that local level, that person, yes, is aligned to your national choice of leader. But the person that you want to pick at your local level is the person who aligns most to your needs. So there's a direct connection between the person, the candidate understanding what the people want. Is it water? You go to Kambani, the 3 counties of Kambani, and you will see clearly a correlation between the messaging of Kivuda Kibwana, Alfred Mutua, Charity Ngilu with water and them getting elected. Or even the candidates that did not get elected, right? It's about water. Are we constructing water ponds? We're going to make sure that there will be water, access to water, election. When you get into power, with all the intention that you had, then you get swallowed up in this whole thing. I don't know what it is.
Some vortex.
And you come back to the people and you're able to so eloquently divert them from the attention of water and bring something else.
Because the entire foundation of your election was on this water thing.
It was water.
And people put you there because they've seen, okay, hold on a minute. For the last however many years, we've been suffering because we do not have this resource.
Yes.
Now, here is somebody who's coming and is making this promise to us, and he's saying, he or she is saying, you know what? Just give me the opportunity to be in that position of power. I will sort out this water problem. Because right?
Yep.
You're intimate with this problem. You understand how bad it has been. Now, on the hope that you talked about, every bet is hinged on that, and you say, all right, let's vote these people in. The passion
and you listen
and the
to
whatever.
their plan.
Yeah, you can listen to their plan very well. It makes sense to you.
And the person tells you, so we're going to have a water dam there. We're going to have a smaller pond here. We're going to have here. And
we're going to
with
dig
that,
boreholes here. Eventually, we'll pipe it, and they
water.
say, yes. Not only have these people made a promise, they understand our problem. And number 3,
they have a formula.
And they'll even be examples of what they have done.
Yes.
So, he did this here. We saw. He did this here. No. This person should be the right person for this one.
Yes.
Because he gets it.
And
then, as you say, you get elected. Then there's a vortex of forgetfulness that people then get into, and then, or just, it's either that, or it is the clear disrespect that you have for the people's needs and desires. Then you get into office and then you say, let us start dealing.
I want to spin it
other
further
things.
up and say that thing that, civil society, when Njoroge Konyo has talked about here, state capture. You're elected as an individual.
Then you get there, join the club.
You get there, and then there's an expectation.
You have absolutely no power. You came here thinking that, I'm going to come and I'm going to influence that the budget is going.
So you here thinking that you were making the decision, but the folks above you were playing chess and you're playing checkers.
Yep.
That's it.
Because, truth be told, these people, when they're coming to you and they're saying, water here, education here, health facility here, they understand, they can see, and they know this is the issue. And if you actually go and follow up with them, you'll find that they tried. They attempted to move something and then they realized. And they will not come back and be honest. That's the other problem we have in this country. Politicians are never honest. They'll not come back and say,
I went and did
you know what, guys?
This thing isn't moving.
This thing, I have reached my wit's end. I wanted us to have a health facility here, but we really can't have a health facility here.
Eric, do you know why it is? You find me taking this line I take all the time. It's because this devolved system has given these leaders the ability to do something. It may not complete the entire picture of what you want to do, but you can do something. There is money allocated to you, and within your purview, you have a say on that money. So at that local level, actually all the influence is on you if you're a member of parliament. If you're a governor, it's on you. There's no national government here. Now, what I find disturbing is this. We keep talking about hunger. We're talking about water here. We're talking about security.
Yes.
This simple connection about resources and allocating them adequately. These very intelligent people, these very well-educated people can't seem to connect this simple thing.
Maybe it's not simple.
It is
That's
simple.
The point.
It is simple. Let me explain to you why I'm telling you it is simple. If the basics that we speak of are taken care of, you're talking about water.
Yes.
And one can see this person has planned, in the first year we're going to do this, and they can see it's been done. Second year, everyone has 5 years. You give hope, they realize, we're going to get this thing done because we can see the progression. If healthcare is taken care of, it's devolved, and you can see there is an attempt. This place didn't have this, it has had. They are getting more drugs. All these negative societal attributes that we keep talking about, when there's hope that is fueled by reality, the truth is they lessen. But when a state of hopelessness takes captive of people, then all these errant antisocial behavior that we keep talking about that lead to crime, believe me, they're on the increase. The insecurity that we see, there is a direct correlation with these whether it's lack of opportunities, lack of resources, the unequal division of resources, all these things, they are connected. Now, if you aspire to be a leader and you don't have the wherewithal to connect these dots and with all that education, then perhaps you need to consider another career. You need to consider something else that is not so demanding on your mind, something that requires you to just sit and talk like us, where we sit every morning here and we just talk to you and we listen to you and we answer your questions and we try to analyze it. Why am I saying this? What sort of person are you when you can't even stand by your own words? Who asks you to make those promises?
You've kept quiet.
Who asks you to say all those many things that you keep saying you're going to do?
Then we hold you by a lesser expectation.
Like I'm saying again, they took our ground.
It's the electorate who expects you to come and tell us what you're going to do for us tomorrow.
Even you, because you're part of that community, you actually want to see change. Okay.
Should you not start with the example of saying, folks, change is difficult? As you said correctly. Speak the truth to the people. Say, change is, what we can do is this. These are the things that I'm likely to tell you will not get done. And you have been here long enough to see they never get done.
Yes.
What we can do is this. If you are dishonest from the get-go, then as far as I'm concerned, when the MP for Gilgil came and said they represent us, she was right. We are them. She was right in that. Because why don't we ask and say, we are listening to what you're saying, please just stop for a single second. Just tell us, simple, how are you going to do it? This thing that you keep telling us you're going to do, how do you plan to do it? Explain to us. Now, that bit of us holding our wannabe, would-be leaders accountable, if it's something we don't do, then yes, we have failed ourselves. But the onus on leadership requires that you raise the standard so that people see that you are someone who does what they say.
Capture. Simon in Nairobi, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning to you, Simon.
Fine, thanks. I expect a couple of things from my leader, and this is a very good topic. And on this, I'll wear two hats. I'll wear the hat of a common voter, and I'll wear the other hat of as a Secretary General of guys who supply government, Association of Government of Public Sector General Suppliers.
Okay.
One of the things that is ailing our economy as we speak right now is a pending bill. We have over 300 billion not being paid by national government, and counties are the worst. So when I hear any governor seeking re-election or a new governor or someone who wants to run for the office, first question I'm asking them is, how are you going to sort this mess? Are you going to start new bills, suppliers? Well, old ones have not been paid. That means money that is supposed to be in circulation is not in circulation because you're not paying suppliers. Or how are we going to do it? Are we going to have an economy where instead of having about 40 or 60% going to development, we are having about 60 going to recurrent? So you as a governor coming to tell me I vote for you, let's say, for example, because I'm domiciled in two counties like Muthui and Kiambu, what are you going to do for me? If I have Kiambu, for example, there are about 30 billion in pending bills, will they ever be paid? So if you tell me come January you want what mashinani or pate pesa and you're not being able to pay the suppliers, how are you going to sort it? From a common one, you're asking yourself, fine, the roads are there and everything is there, but the licenses are too much. How are you going to reduce my licenses I'm able to do business. And normal Mama Muga Ndu Okoh is charged a lot of money for running a kiosk that has very poor infrastructure. For information, I don't even think there's a public toilet in that particular market, in that particular area. You're charging me and you're not providing me the services. If I'm Mheshimiwa, come and tell me if you want to run for an MP, tell me not how you manage CPF. How will you contribute in parliament to ensure my livelihood is better?
Yeah.
I'll give you a good example. You will keep saying such and such MP managed CPF well, this one managed well. How did he make it easier then for me to do business in Kenya or for me to live in Kenya? Manage the roads, build bursaries, give bursaries, and do all the rest. But bottom line, have you ever even contributed on the floor of the house so that we do not have bad laws? Because for sure, my brother, if you look at the last 5 years, I think only 20 MPs legislate. All the others
are backbenchers and never get a movement.
Or they only appear when the head of state or His Excellency Raila pushes them to push a political bill. But when you're talking about this like Huduma number, when you're talking about fuel, when you're talking about the VAT, they are nowhere.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about a coalition bill, they all through parliament. So I'm going to ask my MP, when I vote for you, are you going to come and tell me what you do in CPF, or are you going to represent me? Same goes to the MCA. The other day I was talking to my local MC in Laikipia and I asked him, show me 3 things you ever did in Bunge, in Romoruti. Because that is your headboard. You should be telling me, in this area I pushed to ensure that reforestation is done. Me and you, when we were in school, there used to be permanent forest. It's no longer there. So as an MC, have you even pushed to ensure they can at least plant at least half of what was there? Because the land is there. We used to have what we call integrated, I think it's called integrated farming, where we would plant trees and at the same time have
system.
That is not there, the Shamba system.
Yep.
So, different levels of politicians, you have different needs from them. I may not say what I'll expect from Ruto because I may never, or Raila because I may not have a conversation with them. But if I was to have a conversation with them, mine would be very simple. We will continue taking debt because our revenue collection is bad in our country. How to increase the revenue base for KRA so they collect more and we borrow less.
Good
now,
point.
when we look at things like that, my brother, they'll be paid. We have a problem. Today, I'm not in Mombasa, I'm in Mombasa today discussing about pending bills to the county here. And you'll be very shocked that debts of 2016 have not been settled. Now we have newcomers who want to come into politics. I'm sure they will have to pay that debt. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Simon. And it will be interesting to have you in the studio to just hear the plight of all the people who have supplied to government who still have 300 billion shillings pending bills.
We'll be honored to be at the show.
Asante sana. Tijin in Utawala, good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Eric?
Very well.
How is Ndu and Eric?
The other one is City.
Good morning.
Oh, City.
I am very well. I knew it was me you are referring to. It is okay. Other people also call me Eric. It is fine.
Yeah, it's been long. Sorry for that. You see, when an ordinary cobbler or a baba like myself want to be a president in this country, it shows you that what we go through as ordinary citizens down here, it's very clear in our mind that those who live or those who have surpassed this need might never ever implement this for us. It's very clear. When I want to be a president, it's not that I have money, but the problem I'm going through even surpass the money that is maybe needed for me to be there. It's just that I'm feeling the pain of getting out of this place and do something for the people who go through the same thing like I'm going through. Of course, you find that also the chances of the platform for us to be mainstream media or even your media stations is very limited. Since those who have ever contributed to this have the highest credit to sell their fake and the false manifesto they do sell to us every day. So every morning we'll be waking up in our newspapers and everywhere else we'll be getting who said what. But our alternative voices are not given any platform to speak.
But with your voters, teacher, when you're speaking to your voters, do you get to understand what they want?
I go through the same thing. So myself and voters are in the same level. I'm not like from Runda coming to meet voters in the village. You see the problem? The problem we are having is that you come from Runda, go to the village, promise people in the village that you want to maybe have a borehole for them and a road for them. While in your Runda and in your Karen, you don't have problem of that at all. Then after this, you go back to your Runda and Karen. Do you even expect that those things will be implemented on there? And that's why the voters should stop being voters. they be voters and leaders. Because if there's anybody who can change your life, it's yourself, because you are going through the same thing. But if you expect that leadership is only meant for people who come with choppers and V8 from Nairobi to the villages, and those are the people who change our life, that's a nightmare. It will never happen. You see, if these guys, like in this team that they're talking about bottom up, the only solution that can help this country is if leaders like myself come from the bottom to up directly. But the moment you get into this system, then you start moving, you even forget about these basic needs you are going through. If, for example, today we take the government collect revenue, at least so that you can have public hospitals, you can have some access to public school, you can have some water, but after collecting that revenue, that hospital is left in a private sector, that school is left in a private sector, so you're paying for that school and that hospital, and at the same time you're paying revenue to the government. So next and now, even they're leaving now road to a private sector, whereby you'll be paying revenue and still paying for the road. You see? Our basic needs as an ordinary citizen like myself is not basic need of the ruling class. The ruling class basic need is more of luxury to us, and therefore we are not going to meet anywhere. And that's why we need these radical changes so that we can have these ordinary voters. That Mama Mboga should stop being just only a voter. She should be the next MCA. Not expecting that I'm a Mama Mboga as a voter and I'm waiting for somebody from Nairobi to be my MCA while I cannot be my MCA. Your vote do not only end by being a voter. You can also be a leader with that. So let's have that change as we move forward, so that people who can change ourselves is us. But let us not expect that the president from State House there will be thinking of maybe some people in Ukambani who don't have water, while over 100 of these relatives do not even suffer from water. That's what we do, and we expect miracles to come out.
Thank you, Tejin. Asante sana. Anthony in Mombasa, good morning.
Good morning. How?
Very well, thanks.
Happy Valentine.
Happy Valentine's Day to you too. And to CT Muga.
And Ndu.
Yes. To you too, sir.
Now, what I wanted to say was leaders have good ideas. People get voted with good ideas, but they do not understand how government works. So you have an idea, you go in, get elected, but once you get there is when now you're informed, by the way, this is not how government works. Government works through different ministries. You cannot just wake up today and want to have a dispensary or a clinic in your own location. You have to go to the Ministry of Health, get various, what do they call?
Approvals.
Permissions, approvals. So the people who are waiting for that clinic you had promised them, they don't understand that it is this bureaucracy that might be also hindering you. Developing a road, just putting tarmac on a road, you have to also go seek approval.
Yep.
You find that the government had already allocated some money to that road. So they tell you, don't worry, no need. That road you are coming to tarmac it. Only that what they don't tell you is that they'll do it 6 years after today. So there are so many things that's why you find that things like classrooms, there's no much bureaucracy in it. If you want to build a classroom, please build. But these other things that people really are looking for, water, food, those things are not, you cannot just wake up one day and start.
You can't just get them.
Yes.
Thank you.
The government has a say in it.
Thank you very much, Anthony.
So I think it's high time we learn how the government works first.
True. Asante sana. Well, let's say goodbye to the audience on KTN Home. The conversations continue on SpiceFM around the country. 94.4 Nairobi, 87.9 in Mombasa, 102.5 in Kisumu, 96.0 in Nakuru, Eldoret is 96.7, and 90.9 in Nyeri, 97.7 in Malindi. We're here until 10 a.m. This is Kenya's biggest conversation.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
And accessing the internet.
Sure, reminding you that the Communications Authority is dedicated to helping us work together for better internet, right? And keeping it really safe for children. So Don't forget Cyber Soldiers. It's an interactive game aimed at teaching children how to recognize threats and vulnerabilities online. So, what are some of the safety tips that you've learned so far from playing Cyber Soldiers? We'd love to hear about your experiences dealing with cyber safety to you and your family. So we'll share some of those tips courtesy of CA in next hour. But remember, where you can get online to play Cyber Soldiers
is www.ca.go.ke. ca.go.ke. All right. When you get onto the homepage, select the tab written campaigns and then go to Play Cyber Soldiers or Child Online Protection. We'll talk about child online protection and the content of that particular tab in the next hour. Very good morning to you. This is Kenya's biggest conversation at 9 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Leaders from Wajir say the pastoralist communities are behind President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM leader Raila Odinga's call for a united Kenya. Speaking in Eldoret during the inauguration ceremony of chiefs, Eldoret MP Eden Kainan said the nomadic communities in northern Kenya want a government that will streamline its manifesto towards a united Kenya, where marginalized communities such as the Somali clan have a stake. The residents of Sikalame in Yiro West sublocation, Ugunja sub-county, are calling on the government to come to their aid following a wave of insecurity that has hit the area, lamenting that armed thugs have taken control of the area, maiming and even defiling schoolgirls at will. The locals are calling for the overhaul of the security officers whom they accused of doing little to bring the thugs to book. They say that young girls can no longer walk alone to school in the morning and are to be escorted, hence reporting late. A victim of the armed thugs roaming the area, Daniel Owino, said the robbers who posed as policemen waylaid and robbed him of money and cell phone before leaving him with deep panga cuts. Former Water Cabinet Secretary Cecily Kariuki has dismissed perceptions that the influence of President Uhuru Kenyatta's Jubilee Party in the Mount Kenya region has been thinning ahead of the August general elections. Kariuki last week threw herself into the political arena after resigning from her state position in line with the directive from the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission. She is seeking to contest for Nyandarua County's governorship and a Jubilee ticket in a move that will pit her against the region's incumbent Governor Francis Kimemia. And 3 Ukambani governors and over 5,000 leaders from the region have resolved to support Raila Odinga's 5th stab at presidency in the forthcoming general elections. This is after governors Alfred Muthui of Machakos, Charity Ngeli of Kitui, and Kivutha Kibwana of Makueni held discussions to ensure the Kamba vote is 100% in one basket of Azimio la Umoja. The 3 have held several consultative meetings to come up with a comprehensive campaign strategy to ensure the region is fully represented in the next government. The National Police Service has dismissed a circular doing rounds on social media purporting that the entity is actively recruiting new members to its ranks. According to National Police Service, the circular is false and should be treated as such owing to the fact that National Police Service recruitment announcements are solely made on mainstream media. National Police Service consequently added that all recruitment announcements are related to all police stations across the country, as such civilians can easily verify the authenticity. Kenya's cross-border trade with Tanzania is on the unprecedented upward trajectory as the economy rebounds from the devastating effects of COVID-19 pandemic, with latest economic data between the two East African nations showing trade volumes in excess of 40 billion shillings for the year 2021. The East Africa Business Council disclosed that January to November 2021, Kenya exported goods worth 40 billion shillings to Tanzania. During the same period, the country imported goods valued at 50 billion shillings from Tanzania. This is the highest traded value of goods and services between the two countries since 2018. The Chief Executive Officer of East Africa Business Council, John Bosco Kalisa, said the value of trade between the two countries indicated laudable resilience of the economies. This was supported by strengthened ties among traders in the two countries. And the World Health Organization's regional head of the continent has said African countries are on the course to control the coronavirus and its emerging variants this year. African countries have faced a number of challenges since the first outbreak of the COVID-19 virus in February 2020, including the impact of lockdowns on economies and livelihoods and inequities in accessing vaccines. And finally, the International Criminal Court will start hearing an appeal by Ugandan former Lord's Resistance Army Commander Dominic Ongwen against his conviction for war crimes and crimes against humanity. Ongwen, a former child soldier in the notorious rebel group led by the fugitive Joseph Kony in the early 2000s, was sentenced by the ICC in May last year to 25 years in jail for murder, rape and sexual enslavement. Ongwen had protested his innocence and cited his own history of being kidnapped while on his way to school by the LRA and was brutalized during that kidnap. This is news.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, getting out of traffic hours soon, but whatever is happening on Thika Superhighway that started this morning is not about to let up. We're seeing it going still way past the drive-in today, and so not a pretty situation, still quite heavy. As concerns that, it's still doing its thing on Kiambu Road today and then going out into the city, Muranga Road, right there at Ngara, getting into the city, coming off Juja Road. That's a whole mess. Western's also still some traffic there. Langata Road, that looks like it's going to be there for some time. As you then get into the city, the Southern Bypass is your answer to all of these problems. If you can get on it and then get out, you should be all right. Off Mombasa Road and then just around the Maradaima is where you find a little bit of traffic here and there, but nothing too neck-breaking at the moment. Shall we circle back and see what it looks like at about 9:30? Let's do it. Talk to us in the meantime on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
9. We are on to the final hour of the show this morning, and CT has the day's proverb.
Pasipo meno hapavunjiki mfupa.
Kwa hivyo, vunja mifupa kama bado meno iko.
Yes.
Yes. Ni sawa.
While you still have.
Break the bones.
Break.
Be a bone breaker.
Yes. As you have
while
opportunity.
You still have teeth.
So as you have opportunity, do good to all.
Yes.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Take advantage. Make hay.
While the sun shines.
This conversation that we're having, and it's about the connection between candidates who's a part of the community coming to the voter, resonating with what the voters want, identifying the needs of the voter, and promising to go up there, to go to Nairobi or to go to the county headquarters and address these issues on behalf of the voter. Year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, nothing.
15 years.
Come back. We have made progress. We passed a law. What we went there and we realized was we passed a law, and now here we are. Does it expose, not just for the politician, but for all of us, what we talked about here previously, political illiteracy? We actually do not even understand how a government works. So this person who has come with promises goes up there, and then they are met with reality plus interests. So you're going there, and what you promised your people is, I'm going. I'm going to bring you water.
Oh.
I'm going to make sure I come back here with water flowing.
Lies.
Yeah.
Because
you go up there, then you realize, okay, first of all, for you to get this water water is a national resource. There's a structure. There are boards. There's a board that determines the infrastructure. Then there's a water company that looks at distribution of this. So first of all, let's talk about the board that is determining the infrastructure. Is there a budget for tapping that resource called water? Okay, yes. You come from this particular county. This county does not have a water tower. The water comes from a neighboring county. It has to come to you. Is there proper infrastructure that then moves the water from that county to this county of yours?
Or even if
you're promising people water in Machakos.
Yeah.
Water needs to come from the Abadeas to come to people of Athi River. Okay? You go in there and then you tell, there's a plan, there's something we call the Northern Collector Tunnel. And the Northern Collector Tunnel, we've already started, World Bank, blah, 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 blah. So the construction has started, blah, 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 blah. So wait for it to finish. The Water Collector Tunnel will then increase the amount of water that comes into Nairobi. And then Nairobi will also distribute the water because you're in the same water services board, the Earthy Water Services. Then it'll come to... My friend, you go and tell the people that you promised water in Mavoko, that what? Water. Water.
You too,
Water. There's a water national collector tunnel.
So, is there a disconnect between would-be leaders and the actual knowledge of what they can or cannot do in that position? Or is it just empty, fake, lying promises? Do they also, we're talking about electoral political education.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So when somebody comes and says to you, I am going to give you water, or I am going to build a road, these roads that you've been suffering from, be able to get from Market X to the main road, I am going to come and sort it out. We talk about electoral or political education, that we who are being told these things, we actually don't understand that these politicians cannot actually come and make a road for you. They cannot. Now, there are certain processes they could influence to make it happen, and then this goes from this to the other. But do we understand that? The people who are making the promises, do they also understand it?
And even someone can argue, there's some roads that are, county level roads, and there's some roads that are constituency level roads. So an MP has influence with the Kenya Rural Roads Authority or Kenya Urban Roads Authority on how a road gets. My friend, it's a journey. The Kenya Urban Roads Authority is an independent institution. Okay, it reports to the Ministry of Roads and Infrastructure and Transport. You and as an MP, you coming in, you're barabara yako haiko kwa plan. Iko kwa plan. Tunangoja tu pesa. Haiko kwa vote ya hii mwaka, iko kwa vote ya go and tell the people haiko kwa vote ya hii mwaka.
And they voted you in based on that.
And actually, you could have found that information if it is true before you
went and told the people that you were going to make
they would have told you.
Yes. The people would have told you, hey, here, apana. And iko kwa list, but not
and
now.
Even if it's in the vote, and even if the processes have taken place, and all that requires, and you've even mobilized and you know who is going to actually be responsible for constructing it, there is time before it starts.
Yes.
That is when everything, all the ducks are in a row. But is that what they communicate?
Yeah.
Oh.
This road, tomorrow.
Yes, no. By the time I'm in office, even before the feathers of my victory have dried, this road.
Barabara too.
Tomorrow. In fact,
done.
They'll even mention names.
So and so tulisoma naye.
And I've spoken, my Sharia is my best friend.
Yes, we had dinner together
the other day.
Yes.
This road.
Me too.
Then he introduced you to something new. The diverse and the very malleable concept of tomorrow. Yes.
Tomorrow can shift.
Politically speaking,
even tomorrow,
it's the distant future.
Tomorrow is tomorrow.
Yes.
Even tomorrow will be tomorrow.
I asked the question in Parliament. Did you not see? We're making progress. tomorrow.
They're thinking about it. You see, because I have said, it seems humorous, but these are actual conversations that people have with their constituents. These are things people say.
But even at the national level, you've had podiums where, in a time gone by, the president is at a meeting and he has heard certain things. Where is the minister for this and this and this and the other? So, why has this and this and this and this not been done? The guy freezes. Then whispers something, walks up the stairs. In some cases, they even go on their knees. Yes. And then whisper something. Okay. The minister has told me that this thing is going to be done. As soon as we leave here, they're going to start.
Tomorrow.
The contractor is on the ground. How many times have we been told at national level? The contractor is on the ground. The deputy president has been accused of actually going to make those. Contractor ameanza kopale kwa barabara. Hii ingine, in fact, hata next week wanaanza. Hii ingine.
That particular gentleman, I think, has taken it to a delightfully new level. You are in a place and people know their roads. And you know all those roads of name.
Yes.
From here to here. From here to here.
Mpaka Lukenenye.
It's been finished. From Utundu to Mabambam. That's also been finished. And the guys are wondering, hey, is there another place by this name or what? And the one which came from Utiwi and has gone to Lululu, that one has also been completed. And they're thinking, what on earth is this person
that
talking
road to get
about?
Here. There's no road.
So, now, even when it isn't something that brazen, you get the impression that people who do what we do at a different level, who present themselves as communication experts, are partly responsible. Because they are the spin doctors. And they're the ones who educate our politicians and say, don't say it like that.
Say it like this.
Yes. There's a word that is used in people who understand these things called uncommunication. And when someone says something, you know this guy means the complete opposite.
Yeah.
Okay?
Because they can come in the future and say, did I actually say that?
This? Yes.
I didn't actually say that.
No, they never say that. They're always misquoted.
Yes.
They misunderstood.
Yes. You didn't understand what I was saying.
No,
this is what I meant.
Exactly. Now that's uncommunication. An open, brazen lie. But it is phrased in such a way that there's a comeback. And when somebody says, I am not really justifying this thing. No, I can't justify it. I'm explaining it.
They're justifying it.
Of course, they're justifying it for heaven's sake. Or they're just lying to you outrightly. Now, it's interesting that when you've suffered adequately, as the ordinary citizens of this country have suffered, even when you know you're being lied to, mentally so that you can absorb it, you make it entertainment. You say, okay, boo, let's listen to the lies this guy is going to tell us today. So a conversation can be taking place. And the listeners are laughing their heads off.
Laughing it off, and then you go home.
And you go home, they say, okay, we've had enough lies for today. Because how are you going to tell the citizenry about a problem? Our friend from Utawala pointed out very well. He lives in that sector of the economy that we call where the Wananchi live. So when you talk about problem, it's not something he hears. He lives it.
It's not somebody else's
problem.
No.
He lives it on a daily basis. When you're talking about it, you're not talking to him about something that's alien or strange.
Right.
That alienation we spoke about earlier, you may come from the village and you are just a local, ordinary, simple Mwananchi. But then you come to the bright city lights of Nairobi. Eric calls the system. The bright city lights are part of the system. You suddenly realize your standards were low. You are happy to live in one of these so-called middle-class estates. You realize, in keeping with my station, this is not going to work. So you look for a leafy suburb where there are no matatus or buses. And when buses drop you off, you're going to walk some 2 good kilometers before you actually get there. I know that the matatus can't get there. They're not allowed to get there. Okay? Now, the unfortunate thing is that when you make that change, what happens is that you become a different person. You are not that person whom those people voted in. So even as we speak about some of these things, remember, we are not talking about the person who got elected. This person we're talking about now, in this seat, in this position, that person is different.
But I want to come back to that system, City, because That is what I'm calling that reality plus interests combining. You get up there and then you realize that it isn't just as simple as that. It doesn't mean just because you are mheshimiwa. You know, back home you are mheshimiwa.
Yes.
You want to go to whatever office you'll walk in. Okay. You are mheshimiwa. You want to see a certain chief. You'll walk into the chief's office. You'll find people in the queue. You'll tell them babarienu. You'll walk in.
Yes.
And see the chief.
And no one will complain.
And no one will complain. And you tell the chief what you want, and the chief will most likely listen to what you're saying.
And walk you out.
And tell you, yes, mheshimiwa, hii tutafanya. Come to here, City of Lights. And you start those things. You realize, okay, for me to get that water done, for me to get, just like Anthony was saying, for me to get that school constructed, I've got to go through a long chain. It's education, yes. We just want to have a new school constructed here, yes. You start being told, all right, so, we map these things. So, maps. This area we don't have in our map. We have to fix it in the map, and that's a process. Before we fix this area, so that it can be recognized that it's mapped and you're located for a school. Step. By the time you can't go back to the people and tell, no,
kuna map.
Nimekuta hatuko hata kwa map. Sasa map ndio kwanza tuwekwe kwa map. Ndio tukiwekwa kwa map, sasa ndio shule sasa iandikwe. Ndio sasa how many people are in this area, because the school, according to government levels and on record, it must serve a community of X number of people. I've got to prove that this X number of people are actually in this community and that there's a captive market for this school. That whole process, you're dealing with Magoha's people up here. You cannot go and tell the people down there, you know what, I told you, yes, I am the MP for Laikipia North. We don't have a school in this ward. I'm going to make sure that we have a school in this ward.
It is much simpler.
Reality.
It is much simpler if you already have some structure that you are calling a harambe
and
or a church-sponsored shoes. It is much, much simpler.
Yeah.
Yes.
So then, is the system or the structure within which people operate, imagined or otherwise, then making it difficult for people to do a job that maybe they promised and could see that it could be done? Because you said it's simple. These things are actually not difficult to do. But the system, as it were, is what hampers you from getting it done. We heard how people who get things done in their constituencies, for example, or within their counties, are lobbying at the highest level. You do this for me, you do this for me, so that I can come out and present this for the people. Is that how it ought to be? Or can you not just say, within the structures of government, as they've been mapped out, we know that there are budgets, we know that there are plans for implementation. Go in, say, this is what we ought to do, and then we get it done.
If you have
is the structure of, or is the system then stopping leaders from doing what they ought to do based on the promises that they make?
Actually, the heart of the matter is that this is what actually informs you of whether this individual who you have as a member of parliament is actually a leader or not. Because leadership is not about having been elected. No, not just a member of parliament or an MCA or a governor. Somebody who has people on board and travels with them. Somebody who can actually explain at the level of the simple the denominator of MCA and say, folks, to develop this thing, I as MP, there's a limit to what I can do. You're the people who are on the ground. Right? I have information from the Ministry of Education or for Health. I have all this information. But I want you people to tell me what you think are the problems that you have and priorities. So go back, come and tell me. Because I will visit your wards and I'll listen to the people. Okay? Now, the money that we have is this amount.
Yeah.
So each ward will have an account and you'll have people, just organize it, structured. Year one, this is what we're going to do. Now, the money I've received so far is this. This is the statement. Now, I am going to make sure that money is distributed. Go through the process of ensuring we start this work. Now, why was I saying it is simple? I'm saying it is simple because the vast majority, if not all, of the people who are in those positions are actually educated. So it isn't that they don't understand what needs to be done.
Yeah.
It is what they consider to be important to them. Okay?
And for them.
Yes. Because when you have a conversation with a member of parliament, a sitting member of parliament who has to deal with these things, when they tell you what they go through at these different levels, you realize the simplicity was actually in my mind. But it isn't entirely false, because when you ask, so how do you move from stage this to this? There's a road that comes from a place called Muhoroni, and it goes right up to a place called Songo. It's supposed to be an all-weather road. Most times it's an all-mud road, because you get the impression that somebody just sort of like sprayed maram on top, and when it rains once, it washes it away. I remember having a conversation with my member of parliament and asked him, I've heard you at 2 funerals talking about how this road is going to be fixed. Tell me the reality. He told me, my friend, everything I said was actually true. But the reality is this. It's only now they have actually allocated money for the road.
For this road.
Now. But I've been talking about it for 2 years. It's only now I've allocated. Now we have to finalize who is going to build it and how and when they're going to start. And even when we do, they have to mobilize. There's a whole process.
Yes.
He says, Bwana, I can't stand before people and explain all this. I said, actually you can. Really? I said, it's not you to explain it. You're friendly with these local leaders, okay? Surely they can understand what needs to be done. All you need to say is that the process is being followed and we are close. You may not need to give the details. He told me that is the surest way of ensuring that you've given your enemy ammunition.
That's it.
Because,
I was about to tell you that.
Yes, because they'll say, oh.
You
look at this guy here.
We voted for this guy to come and give us stories.
Yes.
That
money was given. Let him tell us where he took the money.
That's what we want to know.
And that one resonates. Yes. So the complexity is in the way, because it isn't just development.
Yeah.
How do I communicate this to the people in an effective way? How do I also ensure that I remain the person whom they're looking up to as the MP?
You have got to retain your position in the power matrix.
Yes, you do.
Because the moment you lose that, then you're nobody. If you go to the people and start telling them, now
the truth, in other words,
coming now, you see, you're basically showing us that you are powerless.
Does it translate to that though?
Yes, it does.
But we're saying tell the truth.
It translates to that.
The truth. If you tell the truth, what you're doing is that you're exposing a weakness.
You're telling them
you're telling them that you can't.
You're speaking
the
truth.
String them along.
But what they hear is you're unable to do it.
Yes.
So you'd rather string them along, feeding them with all these lies.
You're not lying. Just like that Mheshimiwa told CT, what I said is the truth. I have not lied. I have just not told the entire truth.
Yes.
This road is being worked on. That's the truth.
And when I started speaking about it...
At what stage is it in being worked on? Now that's where the
totally
details...
Yes. It could just be at the very beginning and we're looking at 25 years down the road in order for anything to be done about it, right?
And the truth of the matter is this, the money may even be allocated to you.
Yes.
Somebody who has more influence than you gets that money diverted elsewhere.
We heard it here from the MP for Laikipia North.
Yes, it gets diverted.
She lobbied for money for a road, a main road that cuts across her constituency.
Yes.
It was put in the program, put in the budget, went through the entire appropriations allocated. Next thing,
diverted.
I don't know it went where.
Yes. So, what do you go back and tell your people? They'll know it is you who has stolen it. That long story, they don't want to hear.
I spoke to a governor who was telling me about, spent a lot of money in the first term doing roads, okay? They were all-weather roads, just like you're saying, City. All-weather roads, done nicely and all, but you see, they're all-weather roads. It rained.
Except for the rain weather.
The weather did what it does best.
The weather did what it does. Rain came and went with all the sand.
Went with the road.
Yes.
But it was all weather.
You see, people step back and say,
who you?
What has this guy done? They will not remember that road had been done. It cost 1 billion shillings. So it was like, I realized the best thing is something that stands, that people can actually see. I build a hospital.
There it is.
This one. Unless earthquake comes and breaks it, there's a hospital. You can see it. Whether it has dawa, that's a second, but there's a hospital there. Or I built a dispensary. You can see it. All right? This whole thing of coming to tell people, you see, My job as a governor does not allow me to go to we have because governors have been having this issue over who has direct control and say over some roads, class of roads. There's Kenha, there's Kura, there's Kera.
Yeah.
Those ones are in charge of the roads in the country. You're a governor. It's a Kera road.
So
there's a Kura road.
Talk with people of Kura here. Talk
There's
with
a
people of
Kenha
Kera
road.
here,
Yeah,
talk with people
it's
of
a
Kenha
Kenha road.
Yeah. All running through your county.
Yes,
they do.
Then you start lobbying with all of them.
Now, do you go and tell people, you see now, this
It's
one
Kera,
is
this one is
Kera.
Kura, this one is Kera.
They don't care, Bwana. You're the governor. How much money are you getting with this financial
And
year?
there are those who will have known that this amount of money was allocated for roads. They
Yes.
tell you, okay, so why haven't you built the road?
Yeah.
At what point do you actually speak and tell the truth as it actually is? Or at what point do you limit what you actually say without actually lying?
Close your mouth.
I think it's important that all of us, I think it's important that all leaders at whatever stage start that process of increasing awareness, political awareness in the country.
And maybe it's at that nexus then
that
that people need
literacy.
to understand. That
So that
need
people
to
understand the whole process of actually getting a project off the ground,
This is what it
project
requires.
commissioned, because some projects are complete, but this is a police station. It cannot be, you cannot have police officers there. Why? Because, there's a whole process of handing over from contractor to you, from CDF to the National Police Service. The National Police Service have got to accept that this is a police station here, so we're going to deploy police officers. It was not in our plan. That whole process, people have got to understand it. Otherwise, they'll be saying, huyu alikula pesa akajenga nyumba hapa akaita police station.
So now if there's no understanding that there's Kura, Kera, Kenha, for example, and here you are with all those roads running through your constituency or your county, and you have no understanding. For you, what you understand is, what? Road, build, make. You must understand the different processes that come about in order to get it done. So I would be a huge advocate for this education. But awareness building.
Break?
Yes, break. 9:30, Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's hear from you as we continue the conversation. 0719-012-600.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
There are so many people peddling what is false and that it bears remarkable resemblance to what is true.
Politicians have their agenda, and their agenda is to use every opportunity to sell that agenda and to loot this nation.
I have seen major strides that are done in this country when we talk to each other as against talking at each other.
We start getting back into the tribal cocoons which were put to us by the colonial powers. You know, they gave us physical freedom but not mental freedom. We're still mentally colonized today into these cocoons of tribe.
Now, if you live in an area where it's difficult to find a dog.
He's a goat. I kid you not.
In which part of this country is it difficult to find a dog? So that you resort. Nafande hii umbo yako iko na
Nini umba special.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Sunny conditions, 19 degrees in Nairobi, highs of 29 and lows of 15. We're looking at highs of 29 in Nakuru, currently sunny at 20, 18 degrees and sunny in Nyeri. 29 will be the high and lows of 13. 18 degrees and sunny in Eldoret, highs of 27 and lows of 11. It's sunny in Mombasa now, rain has gone. 32 will be the high today, and we'll see highs of 31 in a partly sunny Malindi. All right, Kisumu 23 and sunny, highs of 30 and lows of 20. And we're looking at sunny conditions in Kakamega, highs of 31 and lows of 17. The sun is out in Kampala as well. It'll go to highs of 29. 31 will be the high in Dar es Salaam, where it's raining at 28. And looking into Lagos, the sun is out as well. 26, highs of 33. It's sunny in Joburg, highs of 27 and lows of 16. The clouds are down in Kinshasa at 22, highs of 31 today. It's been a bitterly cold day out in Beijing, -3 going into early evening. We're looking at highs of 0 and lows of -10. 8 degrees and cloudy in Paris. Highs of 12 and lows of 4. It's mostly cloudy at 7. 9 will be the high and lows of 4 and -4. Cloudy late Sunday night in New York. We'll see highs of -3 and lows of -8.
Spice up your life.
Not yet quite out of traffic hours. Still continues on Langata Road today and also on Gong Road getting into the city. It's looking a little bit better on Jogo Road. Just about Hamza now is now where traffic is moving. At least it's moving. If we can keep things moving, we'll be what? We'll be happy. It's also moving on the Thika Superhighway. Not looking too bad as you approach the Utali Drift and then out towards Pangani. You're meeting at that Muthui Square and then traffic goes out towards Ngara. But you should be all right thereafter. All right, traffic are over in terms of time. But in terms of what's happening on the roads, still looking heavy in some parts. Let's take it easy and then talk through the day on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
City.
You know, as we were speaking, something that came to my mind was this. When you talk about communication, what you're essentially trying to capture and actualize is to meet or massage expectations. Because you're talking to these people and you have a fairly clear idea because there is no political person who doesn't have people, as we say on the ground, who inform them about what's happening and what people are saying. They have an idea. Now, look at our homes where we come from, all right? And ask yourself, because that's where we are socialized. The MP is a near complete product. But if we go to the basics, how often do we, even as parents, sit our children down and talk to them realistically and truthfully about the situation? For instance, you say, this month, we're not going to have butter because we don't have enough money. And the reason why we don't have enough money is because we're doing A, B, C, D. Your brother or sister so-and-so was in this particular stage of their learning and the fees was limited. So now that they've gone to this stage, the money that we have is going here. So we don't have enough money for this, and the other. So a child needs something. Do you talk to that child and say, let me explain to you why it is we're not able to buy you this at this time, but we'll be able to buy it later? If people are in a relationship and they're spouses, do you sit and discuss financial issues openly and say, this is where I stand with this thing? When you grow up and you have parents you want to talk to, you're now a fully grown person with your family. How often do you sit down with the parent if they're still alive and tell them, I actually don't agree with this idea of yours. The way you say it, I know you believed it, but it's actually absolutely false.
I hear you saying that we've conditioned ourselves into a culture of not having open and honest conversations.
Yes.
So you cannot then graduate that at the political level and require a politician to tell you the truth about the situation because you don't do it. It's never been a thing that you've done.
Those with authority over us are not supposed to tell us the truth.
And us,
not supposed.
And we are also not supposed to tell those authority over us the truth as we know it.
Neither are you supposed to ask.
Question.
No.
Neither are you supposed to ask.
No.
Right? Somebody comes and says that they've laid down the letter of the law and then you're supposed to follow it and go with it. So you're walking around with this mental conditioning of how things are supposed to be. So that could be the why as to when somebody comes and tells you that the process is ongoing, you're supposed to say, okay, process is ongoing. Let's go about our daily business.
Yes.
That's it. No questions. What's the process?
Use a good
Interrogate
word.
the process.
Conditioning.
Yeah.
Conditioning. You'll be amazed at just how people are conditioned. I told you I was in a funeral on Saturday, and we needed direction to some place, and we stopped. And I told my brother and the friend we were with in the car, I said, this car that you're driving, talking to our friend, the people we're calling, they're going to come running. Said, really? I said, observe.
You wait.
Observe.
And we stopped. There was somebody whose age I figured was close to mine. Ran towards the car. We asked for directions. The student attention explained to us in great detail. One even removed the hat. I said, okay. I said, now for this performance, you have to pay.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to pay. I said, really? I said, yes. And I told them, like, I always work with change. And I thanked them, we thanked them, and we said, please drink some tea with this. And of course, a friend of ours asked me, how did you know? I said, it's because of the work that I've done over the years. It is, first of all, we clearly are not in our first youth. They can say these are our Zs. That's number one. Yes. And then this car of yours also has its own language that it speaks to the people.
Unataka kitu.
Yes, because they've just seen here something come. Now, that's the conditioning. You might receive something here.
Yes.
So they've come. You may not, but you might. So let me behave differentially.
Yes.
That was the running. Yes. That was them communicating and saying, I have seen you, I've acknowledged, and here I am coming. You just observe anybody who's a wannabe leader or leader. First of all, the Mwananchi pays you homage. You're an aspirant. You're already Mheshimiwa.
Yes.
Others will call you Mjumbe, depending on the position you want. If you look like you have stature and you're not in your first youth again, you will now be called senator.
Governor.
Yeah, thank you. Even if you are not an aspirant, but your peer, they will. That is them paying homage and telling you, I've recognized. You are at this level. Now, by the way, that homage comes the cost.
Of course.
Because you must now play your part. And play the part of the Mheshimiwa. Because Mheshimiwa, when they're acknowledged, they also acknowledge you and tell you to go and drink tea. It is conditioning that has become an accepted culture. Accepted. So now, the hapless and the helpless aspirant or member of parliament who is sincere and wants to do things, how quickly do you think they understand this language? Because you may start not understanding it, but you get to understand it very, very, very quickly.
Yes.
And you realize this one, now you have a choice.
I've got to continue playing this role.
If I hope to have a chance.
The way I'm expected to play the role.
Otherwise, I'll go nowhere.
Yes. You start now behaving there like you're driving another type of car. My friend. Janet in Nairobi, good morning.
Good morning. Happy Valentine to you all.
Happy Valentine's Day to you, Janet.
City receives your greetings.
Oh, thank you. He knows more roads than our politicians, eh?
Yes.
Oh, you're talking about the road that comes from Pum Pum to Bam Bam.
And there was one from Uti to Lu. I don't know. You need to be a politician.
Yes.
So anyway, have you ever heard of emotional abuse?
Yes.
It doesn't only happen to married couples, eh? There's a journal I would want you guys to read about the use and abuse of politics, eh? And what happens is it's by Philip Chapman, and I think Lawrence Scaff. I can't remember the names. Maybe I can text you guys later. So what is happening, these guys are taking advantage of the needs of Kenyans. So even when they go to tell their, whatever issues that they want to solve, and the reason as to why they don't take those issues seriously is because they are not going through those issues, you see.
Yeah.
So as as a political leader, I mean, your fundamental role is to democracy, right?
Yeah.
However, we know very little about the work they perform. Like City was saying, the roads, water, food, health, and everything. So when you come to me and I'm hungry, and you're telling me I'm going to give you unga and maybe sugar if you vote for me, at that particular moment, do you know what I'll do?
I'll vote for
I'll
you.
look at my stomach.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'll say, it's okay, I'll vote for you. So I don't want to really blame Kenyans because this has been the norm. Hunger has been there, Water issues have been
So
there.
how do we liberate
many
ourselves
years.
then, Janet, from this emotional abuse?
I think we admit the wrong people, sorry to say, because our politicians, honestly, they are so, they are so manipulative and they take advantage of the common mwananchi.
But is it so really, Janet? I mean, every 5 years, we keep, changing the politicians and we bring in completely new people. If you look over the last 30 years, the number of people who have been in that parliament individually, we've had over 1,000 people who have represented Kenyans across the country in parliament in the last 30 years. You can't tell me that all those 1,000 different people have this.
Eric, what do they talk about? Food?
Yes, same
Water?
things. Same things.
Health?
Yes.
It's the same thing.
Because those are the issues that
and
affect
these
the
are
people.
Things, exactly.
And that's why I'm saying, we lost Janet. That's why I'm saying, guys, that there's something else. It's not that the politicians are, these wily people. I mean, who are politicians? We know it's somebody who started off just the other day.
Somebody
now
we know.
Has become an MCA, in those old days, MCA became mayor, councillor, mayor, and then they became an MP, and then they were given a role as a minister at some point, then they became governor. Somebody that and they understand these things.
So what you're saying is that the systemic culture is eating people for lunch. When they get into it, you just get gobbled up and that's it. Because why else would it be that different individuals, because over 30 years, we have people who say, I've been in parliament for 20 years. Okay. People who've come in, I was in parliament 5 years, term out. Next one came in out. Next one came in out. But then you still have the same recurrent issue. Why? To me, it doesn't make any sense apart
and
from
all
that.
5 that you've changed have behaved the
same way. And you still have the same issues. They've still made the same promises. Right? You've changed them. Between 2002 and 2020, you've changed them. But you're still suffering the same issues.
That conversation
the stomach is still growling.
It's a really interesting one. And it's perhaps more highlighted when you're talking about our rural areas, where the demands for these services that we speak of are at a far, far higher level than in the city. But then talk about that conversation in the city. What do you promise? Because light they have. Running water in one form or the other, unless in the sun, they have. Hospitals in one form or the other, they have. So what do you promise?
In the city? Exactly
the
those
same
things.
Thing.
Precisely.
Those same
things.
Precisely.
Because they don't have.
They don't have it in comparison to other people who live in that particular city.
Yes.
Whereas, if you go to the rural areas, it's almost uniform. Almost everyone doesn't have it. Now, why did I go back to our socialization? Because I'm saying it is very difficult to escape it. Even as you become this modern person who has achieved X, Y, Z, what in you really changes fundamentally? And if we're to look at the product of our socialization that are embodied in our parliamentarians and politicians, then unfortunately you would argue that there is a change that takes place. Either we see the eventual evolution of this person, or some could argue we see them at their very worst, or we simply see them as they actually are.
For what they really are.
Yes.
The emperor.
Brian.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
I think, first of all, the citizens must understand the role of each leader so that these promises can work. Because there's no way an MP can come and promise you A, B, C, D, of which he does not have a budget for, because his role mainly is to legislate and oversight. So, when he promises you certain things, for a fact, it will not happen. So first, the citizens need to understand the role of these people. They need to make politics less expensive so that it does not go to the highest bidder. Because Raya are the people who will not listen to you if you've not give them chai. Number one. Number two, we see there's no serious debate in our parliament right nowadays because people take stand based on their political leanings. So those people we elect do not really give us their all. And when you look back, sometimes when people were challenging the status quo, and I don't want to use examples, but you'll find brilliant people who had brilliant ideas had to go low so that they support their party leaders without really giving out their real potential or their real outputs. So the population should allow people to do their role. They held the executive accountable and the county governors for serious legislation, for serious development issues, and they held their legislature, both the MCAs and the MPs, accountable for keeping those people on toes and making sure they follow through the budget and the proposals. Yeah. So I think a lot of civic education needs to be done. People need to know. So that the population know, yes, this is the role of an MCA, this is the role of an MP, so that they don't give a weird expectation from people who cannot do the things they expect them to do.
That's true. Thank you very much, Brian.
Yeah.
Good day. Zachary.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning.
I've had to wait for a while because others are still, have got their views. And I thank Uncle Morimandro there. He has made me laugh so loud. For him giving and painting the picture of his experience last week and as he attended to the funeral there. And I agree with him. I also move around with some few coins and, some change, there. Sometimes sweets, and the biscuits, you give to
Zachary, today is Valentine's Day. You must be suffering. Zachary na warembo wote.
No, I went
the mineral water.
I am attending a men's conference. I'm attending the men's conference and I'm calling for, what do you call it? I'm rooting for this idea of, who teaches the girls that, at the boys are told you can also do anything in the house. But then, when it comes to taking care of the, the budget, the boy child is you are the only guy. On your own. Now, let me say this. Yes. What Mwalimu has said is very, very true. And you need to have come from either Barigo, Gatodo South, and during the time of the Jomo Kenyatta, the Raja Gatodo, and probably Udaya. And I always keep referring to Mwalimu Andrew as our institutional memory. He'll tell you that there was a time this place was the currency. That, we have heard you, we have seen your proposal, and it will be done when funds become available. He will tell you that. Who was told this? This was told to the person who are not politically correct.
Yes.
I remember if let me say 12 years ago when Uhuru was my MP that goes out there. He used to come and we said, now this road, look at it. And it's a very potential road. And then he would tell us, he would buy tea and, give us some coins there and tell us, let me go back to Nairobi. You are going to see something. That never happened until when he became the president. And let me tell you, Mr. Eric and do there and Morimadro. That is the time I understood what it means to produce a son who can become and is a president.
Because your road was fixed.
I would want you to go. Not only that one. Not only that one. So let me tell these guys who are buying for the president, for the any seat, if there is somewhere that they know they can hire the very latest car, called I saw it in YouTube, and it's a very, very civilized car called the. Can I mention it?
Yes.
It's called Rolls-Royce Race. And another one called Rolls-Royce Cullinan. Very civilized cars, okay? If you are able to hire them and probably take them into those villages, one thing they speak for you. Just as the car that Mwalimu was driving for them. And it said these guys belong somewhere, okay? People will come running to you. At the same time, have a foreknowledge of what people want to hear. Go tell them those lies. Have some change or coin in them. Have a godfather in the black gold, the sunglasses, yeah? And a walking stick. And a very shiny shoe, okay? Tell them that people who get your watch.
You'll get the
tell
vote.
them I'm being waited in another 20 places also, okay?
You'll get the vote.
You get the vote.
Okay.
Have a nice day, guys.
You too, man. Maina, good morning.
Yes. Good morning, SpiceFM.
Good
How are you?
I have a small contribution.
Yes.
My own opinion is the Kenyan voter is greatly disadvantaged and disadvantaged because we have elevated politics in this country so much so that political achievement is the apex of who you are as a Bonanchi.
Yeah.
I mean, politics is the highest office according to what we know as Kenyans. That politics is the highest achievement. I mean, if you can leave your job as a CEO to go and run for governor or a senator, you have achieved. You have a right.
Yeah.
So, and if you haven't done that, you're still trying. So, in essence, we have elevated politics to be the most, and it is higher than any other career or any other job in this country. It is actually next to God, if I can say that. And now the jeopardy of that is that the Kenyan person has been told that for you to experience development, politics have to work, and you have to be politically represented. So the Kenyan voter is represented over 6 or 7 times. And then on top of that, he's told, for you to now experience proper development, be one of those. Among the 7, make sure you achieve one of those, either FCA or women rights or whatever. So it becomes a vicious cycle where we never achieve because we blame the politician. And if you don't blame the politician, you blame yourself because you're not a politician.
Yep.
So it will never get there. My own suggestion is that we should de-escalate politics in Kenya and strengthen our institutions so that development is not dependent on politics. We don't have to have our own person in office for us to have a good road. We don't need to have our own as MCA so that our schools can have books and our hospitals can have medication. Just make sure our institutions themselves, they run smoothly and they're devoid of politics. By the time politics in this country are so elevated that politicians can march into an educational institution like a university and frog march the vice chancellor on political grounds. That tells you what our politics are what is eating us in this country. And we need to just evaluate how much
de-escalate, as you say.
Yeah, I mean, we make it less important. Let's strengthen our institutions that build our country. If it is health, we make sure that our health institutions, if it's justice, our courts and our legal systems are robust. Likewise to road construction and education, they run independent and they are not, they're not influenced by politics whatsoever. If we go that direction, perhaps there is hope. But as long as our only hope is politics,
Krisha.
we have another 100 years or 2.
Thank you, Maina. Have a lovely day.
All
Thank
right.
you for calling.
Okay, bye.
This one is actually a conversation that we'll keep having. And like Maina is saying about strengthening the institutions, we had that conversation. That was the conversation around the Constitution of Kenya 2010. It created institutions and structures.
Independent
institutions. Where are we? That's a conversation for another day. Let's talk about children's.
How do we keep them safe online is a big question. The CA launched Cyber Soldiers. It's a brand new interactive game aimed at teaching kids to recognize threats and vulnerabilities online. So, here are some tips your children can learn from the game: how to protect your children from cyber bullies, teach your child responsible online behavior, including the proper ways to interact with people and the kind of language they use online, whether addressing a friend or a stranger, keep the mean or threatening pictures. These can be used as evidence while escalating the matter to school or to the bully's parents where the issues are being addressed. There are very, very many things that you can do to keep the online space safe. Cyber Soldiers helps as you try to figure these out while playing the game. And you can get to this by going to
www.ca.go.ke. That's www.ca.go.ke. Okay, you can click on the campaigns and then play Cyber Soldiers or Child Online Protection. You get the tips on the Child Online Protection. On the Play Cyber Soldiers, you are able to play. The children can play the game, and as they play the game, they get to learn how to consume the internet in a safe manner. CT Muga, vunja mifupa kama bado meno iko.
Yes, na pasipo meno hapavunjiki mfupa.
Bas. Pasipo meno hapavunjiki mfupa.
Alliteration. Yes.
Thank you very much for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation today. Join us again tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eric Latiff, Ndu Okoh, and CT Muga. Did you hear that song as you were coming from Kitui? Sure. The latest hit song in Ukambani.
We did. We were busy talking about
Kungulu, kungulu, pangala, pangala, tundulu, tundulu.
Oh, you're just making things up since 6 a.m.
Big song, Ndu. Big
pangala,
song.
Pangala,
pangala, pangala, tungulu, tungulu. It's 10 a.m.